Call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Leominster School Committee. We go.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and justice for all.
Leominster School Committee statement. We read this in each and every school committee meeting. It represents all public schools. Places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decisions upon a recent assessment of all available information. Advocate for each of our schools and support high quality public education. This time we have a new member. Welcome. Welcome aboard. We'll get you a nameplate.
Not the new.
Look at that. It's already pulling seniority. Didn't take them long. Anyway, welcome. I you know all of us. Unless you want. You know you will. All right, we'll open up the meeting. Anyone would like to address the school committee? If so, just grab the microphone. And did anybody sign up at all? No. Okay, one last time. Now we'll close this portion of the meeting. We'll go on to communications.
We have one communication from Greg.
Yes.
Dear Caitlin, it is very regret that effective today I'm resigning from my position on the Leominster School Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to serve this great city of Leominster. I'm truly sorry to leave without fulfilling my promise in 2 years. However, it would be detrimental and a disservice to my constituents and children by remaining. Sincerely, Greg.
And do we have a student report?
Yes, so I'll start off by just, talking about obviously what's going on in school lately, but I have something to talk about too. I sent out a form to the student body through different Google Classrooms and stuff about I'll read you the prompt. It was about chronic absenteeism. Because I just thought it was good, to like actually, we have these big issues. We may as well hear directly what the students think. So I asked, how can the school committee improve chronic absenteeism within all of Leominster public schools? I'll just go for this now instead. And I had 4 responses, which doesn't sound like a lot, but like you wouldn't expect to. When you're talking about chronic absenteeism, there's not too many students who are too interested, but it was good. So one student said, figure out what the underlying issue is. Is it no drive for school? If so, how does that apply for kids in elementary? Is it the parents do not care? Why not? Have they given up on education or the system? How do we educate these attitudes without fear or backlash? Another one says schools in Leominster can give prizes, for example, ice cream for good/perfect attendance. They can spend time they can send timely and personal emails home to parents regarding their own students' attendance, not just in general. Those with attendance issues can have counselors or teachers mentor them. They can provide incentives for the people that come in every day, like the weekly raffle programs. And then lastly, I believe it's important to have students to continue to show interest in their studies and the class material itself. The way for this to come true is to collect input from the students about what they would like to learn about in school. Most students don't believe most of the things in school would be beneficial to them, and important classes such as personal finance and current topics in science should be pushed to the students. So yeah, those were just some responses I thought you might be interested in. Thanks. Yeah, and then so in terms of what's going on in the school, the LHS cafeteria, if you guys have a chance to stop by, take a look at it. It looks completely different now. We have all new chairs, like all new tables. It's all put together differently. It's really cool. It's kind of like a college campus type of like vibe, I like it personally. We'll share a picture next time, but and then before break, there was a blood drive at LHS and a toy drive to support the Stuff a Cruiser effort. LHS students also helped install a new flagpole donated by the class of 1949. A bunch of students got a job, got on the job training with the mayor on how to install a flagpole. Band and chorus went to Disney to perform in a tournament, and they performed very well. My opinion. The debate club and Becca will be having their first competitions in the next few weeks. Ivy Sasu had Dr. Anya Thomas, who's a psychology professor at Tufts, come to speak to the students about leadership and achievement. It's only one of the speaker series that Ivy has hosted. They're really good. Winter sports have started with strong openings by basketball, hockey, track, cheer, and wrestling. And both Best Buddies and Stump are currently leading popcorn sale fundraisers. And if you are interested, there's a lot of cool flavors of popcorn. It's for good cause and stuff, but no pressure. But yeah.
There you go. And good on this. You know, anybody that goes there and has any dealings with anyone in the medical profession. Experience. And it's the same thing with education, right? We've got to know. In sense, we think we know, but maybe we should just step our efforts to seek more. So how was it, right? We asked people, how was your lunch? How was your day, right? How was the class, right? It's just what you thought it was going to be. That kind of thing. It's not making it negative.
I'll try and make it a regular thing because you know I know that's my job is whatever. So it's like
More so you can represent, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very sporting name tag.
yeah, it's really cool.
We'll now move on to the superintendent's report.
We'll get started. First, I want to welcome Natalie Sasson to the team. I know Natalie as a parent. Her baby was a baby when I first met Natalie. So, welcome you to the team, and doors are always open if you want to speak, if you need anything. Just reach out to us.
Thank you very much. I am very excited.
We're happy to.
First order of business, keep Ron under control.
Good luck. That's a big ass. Good luck. I'm just sitting in my office and I still get.
Well, it was Matt's job before, it's Matt's job, but now he's got seniority. He's already pulled money. So now it's her.
You know where we're at.
Rod and I get along fine. So I hold down the side of the table quite well.
Moving forward, today was day 85 of school, and that doesn't usually mean much to those on the outside, but we're almost in the midway point. Next week, we'll wait through our school year, which also says grades are closing. So it's time to get assignments in and pushes on. So as parents, if you want to check in with your student, go on, teachers, make sure all assignments and projects are in so that they can receive appropriate credit. Have also been having a glitch, I'm just going to call it a glitch with school messaging. I don't know, many of our emails are going into the spam folder. We traced it back to something happened around December 11th, and I'm going to blame it on the holidays because it makes me feel better. Some extra securities were put up, and so we've been trying to notify parents. Information is coming out and it's starting to trickle. We're breaking that wall down, but those messages are sitting in their spam folder. So there are workarounds to that, but if it's at home, it's a friend. I sending too many emails out. That's why we're called spam now. But those messages are there. So please be checking out at all times, especially with inclement weather, emergency purposes. We have to switch providers. We're willing to. So we need to clean this up and make sure that everybody's. This is the worst calls to make ever. We're still noticing students coming in shorts and flip flops, and this is what kids do, right? So if there is anyone that you know of, or yourself, or sweatshirts, coats, hats, whatever it might be, don't hesitate to call the school. We have our parents' closets fully stocked, ready to help students. Our bus drivers are really our first eyes on our students, and they notify us pretty quickly. Just email anyone and let us help whatever we need. Also, our bus app. If you don't have to stand in the cold any longer. That bus app, we're close to what, 1,500 people right now that are on that. You don't want to be out there, if you know your bus hasn't even left the station yet. So you can look on that, you can track your child's bus and get out there with just a few minutes of exposure. The last thing is, there's no school for students next Wednesday. It is a staff development day on special education and inclusivity. It will be busy. All staff will be here at Leominster High School. In the morning, and then school breakouts throughout the building. And we're an 8 to 3 each day for at Leominster.
Questions? Next is a presentation by Francis Drake, presentation, right?
Principal Andreas.
I was with you in school tonight, thinking that you were doing it at every school.
Oh, hey, we could have done it twice.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm gonna make a leave for Francis Drake.
All right, well, good evening. Good to see everyone. This great looking crew. I heard there was a new member of the school committee, and I was excited to meet that person, but we know each other. So oh, everybody's what it is.
Every child in every school needs that. For one.
Bennett, please.
And it's
Okay,
the
well,
only one that I have not
there you
had.
go. Well,
Well, with 4 kids.
then welcome back and hello again. All right, so we have a quick visuals for you over here. Go over some key parts of the school. Obviously, there's a nice looking picture that I stole from the website actually. So I can take credit for that. Next slide, please. I blame it on the blood also. I'm just happy I don't have a kicker.
Al was having sound issues, so he's.
Okay.
But while we're talking about, you mentioned glitch, but superintendent, more and more of the emails that are getting sent out, I looked at was batch, it's spam. So when you send anything out, bulk, I'm constantly having to go back to my spam to look to see what I missed. People are like, can you get back to me? Just send it to.
No, I see hat on. for
It's extra security. You know,
I don't want to talk.
the
about
government security's better than everyone, just because it was, buttons and missiles and everything, but not us, but I mean, in general, but
it.
it's
It's like it for a reason. That's
Exactly.
All right, seems like we're back online. Thank you, Kyle. So just a quick visual, a few visuals to just kind of bring you up to date. You probably heard that we were fortunate enough to get our gym floors done. So that's just one of the shots came out really, really nice. Kids very excited, looks sharp. And so we love it. So kids really enjoy that. Next. So Matt? Yes, Matt. So that one looked a little familiar to you because we inherited the round tables from the high school. I was happy to take them. We used to have the rectangle long ones, and honestly, especially for elementary age kids, it's just not conducive. With this we are getting used to it, so it's different for them. So they were excited when they first walked in that cafeteria and saw it's like, oh my God, what did I say? So we have to work on that. But at the end of the day, it really serves a better purpose than the rectangle tables. They're able to socialize better, communicate better without having to get up all over the place to talk to friends at the end of the table. So, we're happy to take them.
So were the other chairs yours before them?
No, those are all.
This came from the sheriff.
So they're new to us. We're happy to have them. So thank you. Next. Just a couple of little things that are going on or should be taking place in the near future. As you may recall, I came to this committee I think at the end of the school year last year to request a couple extra funds. So thank you. We got some of that. And so with it, we are updating our swings. So the mini soccer field is amazing the interest these kids have in moving, and nothing like soccer to get and basketball for sure. But we have a tremendous number of students interested in that. So they have little teams. We are trying to train the duty aides on like, enforcing some of the general rules. And so they have a little, jerseys to like kind of differentiate the colors and all. And so they're having a great time with that. And right now it's just dirt and mud, right? Right. So we can't wait to have something that is simulates a little better to what a soccer field would look like. It's not gonna be your expensive, fake turf like you'll go to some of these like Doyle, when they get there. But we'll make it look nice, and I think it'll be great. It will be grass. It will be actual grass. And so I'm working with Butch, our students manager, to get some of these things in place. Planning structure. We're working with the PTO also, who's also helping us with some funds to complete the picture there. So I'll let you know when it's ready, so you can come by and take a look. Next. So security measures. Those of you might come by. We already have in place, with I think all of the schools have also done tinted glass in the outdoor glass window surfaces. And the protocols now. The girls in the office are drill sergeants. I'll tell you. You will come there like, who are you? Why are you here? What's your social security number? No. We just to make sure that, that we are being as detailed, still friendly as possible for security sake. We do have keypad entries in all doors, external doors, so that's a good one. We do have existing cameras, but it's being updated. They're kind of old. The pictures are not that great, although we've been able to get some good views for a couple of things that we had to take a look at. But we are updating that and making sure that we are capturing the areas that currently we don't have coverage in those areas. So once this is done, we should be all set in that regard. Along with that, you being to the back of the building, especially in the evening hour nights, a lot of people come through. They just come to play basketball in the back or just simply to hang out, and it's just dark. And we've had some vandalism in the past. So we, again, working with a facilities director to get some lighting in the back. So it's lit at all times and people know that, it's under surveillance. And so, again, hopefully that it be done sooner rather than later and get all that done. Next. So here's the real deal. MCAS. I'll say right off the bat, I am not happy with our numbers right now. And you see the historical data here from 2017 to 2022. You can see a big, decrease in proficiency in 21 and 22. It's again, we're not happy with the data the way it is. This is ELA specifically. Obviously, we were affected, pandemic or no pandemic. A lot of it has to do with it. I was just talking to Ms. Paula last year and this year still. It's amazing the number of families that are still displaced by a number of different reasons, right? And I can see a clear connection to that. Good news, the way I look at it, obviously we've shown that we know how to do this work. If you look at prior years, we've been in good places before and we'll be there again. The superintendent, along with her team, has brought this year specifically, more so, the work started last year, a level of consistency is what I'm going to put it, especially in the area of ELA, in which all schools are receiving the same message, the same training. We're using the same tools. We're going to the same, PD, same research, and just going deep into the instructional practices. And so with this level of consistency, I think it will be very telling in the next couple of years, the impact that will have. And the good news in this is that since we are being consistent, I'm hoping that we will be able to tease out, okay, yeah, this is working. No, this is not working. And what adjustments do we need to make, right? That's in the long-term view of this. Beyond that, and I think one of the next slides will speak to that. So we can go to the next slide, Scott. Math, similar story, maybe a little better. But again, it's kind of the same trend you can see when you compare to 2017 to 2019, that, increase there. Why not? And I don't know how much detail we have on this. I'm very hopeful in terms of the same consistency is coming to life in terms of the year of math in the next year or so. I know the curriculum and superintendent are working on that, and I'm sure you'll hear more about it moving forward. So it's taking us, this is the second year of training in the area of ELA, and I know that math is what's coming next that will be able to bring this consistency for instructional practices as well. So those are the two slides on ELA and math that I have. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but the pictures are very clear, and I'm just hopeful of the way we're moving forward.
Just have one comment.
Sure.
I think the metrics that we're looking at here don't tell the whole story. I think your outlook is much better than what this says. What I like, student growth potential, measuring, my understanding, student growth potential measures students across the state that got similar scores the year before and where we align in terms of year over year. So 43 is pretty good. I mean, that's really good. That's showing that we made progress year over year, especially compared to other kids that went through the pandemic as well. Right. So that's more of a number to measure it off of, I think. And that's something to be proud of. I would also point out, you guys used to have the LEAP program there, right? And that certainly helped your scores, right? And so where you're at right now, like, I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, me too. And thank you for that, signal that out.
That's an average of your third, fourth, and fifth graders that took LPAS, correct? So it's not like the ninth grade, that's just
Third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah.
Yep. Next. So this is just for informational purposes. Flap is what's at the bottom. Students demonstrating English proficiency. These are students whose language is now English at home. English is their second language, and that's the kind of breakdown by grade of the students that have reached that level in which they we move into to that highest level of their proficiency. They reached that level. So those were the number of students that reached that milestone this past. That data usually comes around May. The test is actually kind of is happening right now. And I'm a product of that. I'm proud to say I came to the States with no English whatsoever. And at age 18, so I relate a lot to these students. That's one of my favorite things. I just did that actually before the break. Love to go in and talk to students about their experiences and just let them know you guys are gonna make it. You guys are gonna get this, and in a matter of 6 months to a year, you're gonna be amazed because you can do this. You can do hard things. That's a message that we deliver consistently. You can do hard things, and language is not an exception to it. Because it can be pretty daunting and discouraging, especially at the beginning stages of acquiring a language. So, yeah.
I think
What are your projections? You have projection where they're going to be next year. What do you like on the future, I guess? You don't have to tell me. What are your projections?
Yeah.
They're here today. By their work, where do you see them next year?
Right.
Because this year's third graders will be next year's fourth grade. Where your tests.
I understand the question. Yes. So I think, and everyone wants to jump in, that's fine. I think there are two ways to look at that. The state gives us targets. That's one way of looking at it. So we want to get there. That's the goal, right? And that is by grade, and so that varies depending on what grade that is at. We also have more of a local data system, which is called MAP. And so MAP is is a test that we implement quarterly. It's a measurement measure of academic progress. Yes, so it's exactly what you're speaking about, measure of academic progress. And so that is administered quarterly in the fall, in the winter and the spring. And especially the one in the spring, it is designed as an indication of how they're going to perform in the MCAS, but also has a component built in that gives exactly what you're saying, the projected growth.
There's.
We can get those. I don't have it tonight, but
We have our growth for each individual child.
Yeah.
Because you know how you were saying earlier, and please, somebody stop me if I'm wrong.
I will.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can't wait. You said we have to wait 1 or 2 years. We have to wait 1 or 2 years.
No, we're testing right now. So we're doing the mid-year assessments right now.
So we know what the results are
Yeah.
now instead of.
So if we have to make course corrections or redirections, right now we have those measurements. We're still in the midst of that assessment. We should be done in the next couple of weeks, and we'll bring that to you.
When you say course correction, then I'm gonna stop.
Well, so say we see a trend or an area that we know students are struggling with, we can say, oh, we need to really focus in on this area or that standard or that skill. So all of those are indicators. We give all that information.
I was really impressed to see the rebound in 2022 from 2021.
Mm.
I especially in the I was like, yay, math is one of those things when you're practicing it daily, it seems pretty easy.
Mm.
But the farther you get away from it, the more time you have to spend going, how do I start this problem? And the fact that after just a year of what, oh yeah, I know how to do this, it rebounded. So I wouldn't.
the future is hopeful. Yeah, thank you. And I think that trend will continue.
Yeah.
This is literally, I mean, this past assessment was just coming out of the pandemic, and it was just kind of rebuild and get things going again.
So we're gonna have the first quarter and the second quarter.
Correct.
To look at.
Correct.
All right, so when we get, as soon as those are done, we'll be able to look at those.
Yeah.
See how I do.
And just so you know, that's an instructional tool. And so teachers will be looking at that the second is out. All right, and that's what we do. So we take a look at it. Okay, so this group is in this area. These are the areas of strength. These are the areas where they need more support. This is how we're going to group the students based on those strengths. And then they meet as teams to decide on strategies and instructional strategies to address those areas of the group. And that's for every individual student.
I remember math was very diverse. I remember when I took it, I was like, so what is this test about? Because like there's just so many, I could see that
It's a lot.
very useful.
And not to get too much into it, but I can get excited about this. Like I said. And it's also an adaptive test. What that means is that the student will be put in there at the grade level, right? And if they answer correctly that question, then it keeps getting harder. And some students end up, by the time they're done with the test, if they're in third grade, some students end up the test at a like 5th grade sort of level because it keeps getting harder and harder on that. The opposite is also true. If the student doesn't answer correctly, then it decreases the complexity of the question until it sort of levels with them. And then we know, okay, so even though the student is in the 3rd grade, he might end up testing at the 2nd grade, and we can see in what areas that students performing at a 2nd grade level, so we can address those areas of that need support.
And eventually, student, no matter who the student is,
Yes.
as we become more electronic and as we gather the information, we'll be able to tell by the end of the day where the student went wrong. If he or she answered the first 4 questions correctly, and all of a sudden it just didn't click.
Correct.
It will come back and reassess that and show them a different way to look at it until they get it. And I hate to bring this up because it's probably only me and Ron that remember this, but there were things called the SRA test. And you didn't get up to you didn't get up to the next level until you finished that first level.
Wow.
But there was no algorithms. There was no way of
Yeah.
assessing as you were moving along in the process.
Math wasn't
Excel
funny then.
basically.
Yes.
Now, so it's too short and the best cheese you can buy. Will the results be dirty? Or are you gonna buff?
No, I think.
I'm just asking, guys, you're not. You know how sometimes you get results and
Yeah.
they don't.
We can't do that with the-
I don't like them clean. I just want them.
Just what I said, Ron, is as we go more electronic, especially in areas like now, where there's only one right answer. This is an essay on why the bird took a left or a right. This is something that's quantifiable. I mean, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. So what he's saying is gonna get data that's gonna show. No, we're not gonna see the student. We're not gonna see each student. We're gonna see data overall by, and then they're gonna look, but I'm saying down the road, you're gonna see by student, by everything they do, we're gonna be able to tell whether
I
they're
think
good
you'll find
data.
it useful when you have the data.
So
Do you?
So we're
I
gonna get
think it's
good
hard
data.
to talk about it as
Well, I
an
just,
abstract.
is data gonna be
data is
dirty?
exactly what it is.
I like it as it is,
Yeah.
or you're gonna buff it and
Gonna
shine
be
it.
the raw dirty data.
It's just like an emission test when you go, and it tells you that's it. There's no faking.
Yeah, like once I submitted my score, they would just, my teachers would just know my score. They just had that. They couldn't like add or
That will
take
put it into a
away.
nice dashboard.
Parents were given that first quarter.
Yes.
At parent
Yeah,
teacher
and
meeting.
that-
So that's something fresh.
So you got that
Yeah,
first spot.
exactly.
You can see where your child's at.
Right.
You can have a conversation with the teacher about what do you need me to do, if
Right.
anything, which, let's face it, after fifth grade, there's not much we can do to help our kids anyway.
Yeah.
The most recent poll said that, so.
So we know, I presume if a student is underperforming grade level, we give them extra help.
Correct.
What if, in your example, they're two grade, if after the pandemic, somebody's two grade levels ahead?
Yeah.
But, in that, how do you kind of
Yeah,
approach
that's,
that?
that is a very common situation, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
And so the curriculums that we use already have embedded those basically enrichment skills to deepen into the content of the same, deepen into the standard. So the state may require you to understand in this level, but those students were already there, right? That's where the differentiation takes place. And the teacher is very well aware of that. And that's an ongoing part of the conversation to identify those students who are already there. So how can we challenge them more? And so that's a good problem to have. And we do have it, and we're happy to have it.
But there's a system in place that sees that, even if it's reading,
Yeah.
get a kid in second grade, that's reading in fifth grade.
Yeah.
You don't want to say, hey, you achieved it, but.
No.
You want, obviously.
Correct.
I've added things.
Yeah, and there are, I mean, that's part of the instructional piece of like differentiating what they're working on. And, I've seen them in action, like I've been in classroom, I just went to a classroom. And, the class was amazing. It was very engaging. And I went over to a student that, was working on it, but then I started talking to her. She's like, yeah, well, I'm doing this, but I'm also working on this other project, all related. It's exactly the same standard, but she had this extension piece that she was so excited to work on because she was, expanding her knowledge. And so, yes, I love to have that problem. And we do, and it's the good place to be.
Right.
Next.
So we'll get the 2 quarters.
Yes.
Take a look at it. Obviously, the second should be better than the first. It should be, so give us.
And honestly, over time, because we have the fall, obviously the winter, then the spring. The spring is kind of the wrap up, right? Because by the end of the school year, it'll tell the complete story because that's it. That's the end of the school year, and they should at least be able to access the grade level information and access it. Next. Okay, so there you go. Thank you. A couple areas of focus that I wanted to just bring up. We talked about. I was impressed about the survey on absenteeism, and that's key to have. That's part of the data that we definitely look at consistently, especially after last year and the year prior. That's an area that we are constantly looking at. Communicating with parents, they do get what you mentioned in terms of what one of your answers alluded to, in terms of sending timely information to parents, so they at all times where attendance is at. Also sending literature, because to a parent, you see that a student is absent 12 times and, well, this happened and that happened. And let's be honest, oftentimes, especially around certain holidays, people who travel far and who are out of the country, it's just so, it is expensive to travel during those days, during those vacation times. So we encourage families to take vacations during school vacations, but also sharing with them the benefits of being there. And the opposite, what are the challenges that come across when the student is not there consistently? At that time in the classroom is never fully recovered. And so we try to communicate that in a friendly, loving manner, a consistent manner. So that's one of the.
So what's your opinion? I mean, the other guy, if I remember right, used to go bang on people's doors and say, hey, why is your kid in school?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and this is just from your opinion. You don't have to have any scientific data or a poll or anything. So the kids that aren't coming to school at your school, why?
There's so many reasons.
All right, give me some.
There's a lot of displacement of families. I so many examples of those alone. And that happen for a variety of reasons. One, I can give you a couple of examples. I have a lot of families who simply have to move to somebody else's house because they couldn't afford their rent or place of living. Right now, that some of the students are in with one family, so some of the sisters with another family. Some of them are out of state, some of them are back and forth out of the country. Sometimes it's paperwork, documentation stuff. There's a lot of sickness is one that's nothing new there. But what I consistently see is the displacement of families. I think a lot have to do with finances and financial situations that has come across a lot. I don't right now. I don't have any information on families who simply don't want to send their kids to school. It might be, that's that, but it's nothing prevalent right now. I see more of the displacement.
So do they not understand how to, so they say that child is leaving the district or another school in the city. Do they not understand how to make that transition so that student can be now enrolled in another school so they don't send them, or they're not sure how long they're going to be there? Or
They,
That's been just for my day job role with it, is it's not just homeless. I'm going to Gardner now. I'm going to this cousin's house, to this cousin's house, to the friend's house. So it's not just that they're moving, it's they had no local residence. And then if you're shifting to Gardner and you miss the bus and you don't have transportation, you're not getting to Leominster those 2 or 3 days. It's a chronic pattern. So if you have a car and you miss the bus, you're not going.
I can't. I don't have that number, but I just for the sheer, I can't give you a number.
Yeah, no, can I preface this by saying just your opinion? I mean, that's and so how do you get to them and say, look, you need transportation, right? I mean, your boots on the ground.
Yeah.
How do you listen? I get your kid to school. Whoever that kid is, whoever that child is, I'll get him to school.
Constant communication.
Send the taxi to whatever we have to do.
Yeah, because oftentimes we don't know, right? Oftentimes we don't know. And it's just like teachers and administration, we are in guidance, constant communication. That's like, okay, so such and such is being out for a week. What's going on? Okay, let's call first. And there's no answer. Okay, phone is disconnected. This is real. None of the contacts, phone numbers listed are answering because that maybe prepaid phones, what have you. Let's go to the email. I mean, I live this almost daily. Then the next step is like, let's send a note on the kid's backpack. Please reach out. We want to help. The next step is exactly that. Go to their home. So steps.
I'm just curious from your vantage point. It may be different in Fallbrook. It may be different in another school.
It varies.
But I think the message is really good, whether it's through churches or whether it's through the Spanish America, wherever it is, it's really important. We got to get back to it. They can understand. By 3rd grade, if you're not at that level, it's going to take a lot more work. It's going to take double the amount of work to get you back where you're supposed to be. And this is really critical. I mean, we'll do whatever we have to do to get your child to school every day.
As part of this, I'll give you one more piece that I was planning to mention it anyway. which takes me back to the survey. That's one of the things that we did do. We did put out a survey to students. And we framed it more in sense of belonging. Because one of the other pieces that there was a lot of trauma, say, I just thought of that as a result of the pandemic. And so there was a lot of fear, hesitation at times, and that's improved over time. And so we wanted to know how comfortable, how much do students want to be at school. So we did do a survey to students and very, student-friendly language, and we got really good data there. And at the end of the day, that's another way that we are targeting attendance is by helping students wanting to be at school. Like my young kids, they're like, no, don't make an appointment. Don't make it a dentist appointment right now. I don't want to leave school because I want to miss this. I want to miss that. So we want to create, and we're working very hard to create that sense of belonging at school, where students want to come to school. The next level of that is relationships. Teachers they're constant every day. So no one, as someone said, put it very wisely, no student learns from someone they don't like, right? So creating those relationships and really intentionally developing genuine relationship with the students, that you show them interest, not just as students, but as individuals, that you truly care for them. And I tell my teachers, any gesture, any tone that you use in the classroom is gonna either tell them that you really care or you really don't. So let's be intentional about that, and let's be more aware of our own body language, tone, and that we do. So we have an initiative at school in which, to create that level of awareness, because I think that's crucial. When it's happened to me. I have a third grader in a 10th grade. And when they're like, no, I don't want to miss school. My daughter, not to give too many examples, but she was furious because her grandmother had a birthday surprise for her. She had to miss a day of school. So that's what we want, that students feel that sense of it.
So your total enrollment right now is what?
It's like around 460.
466. How many students would you say are like, I need to really focus in on in terms of absent? Roughly.
That data exists.
5, 10, 20?
I know that Gloria says a little bit about that. About 20%.
I mean, just because we're going to be talking about goals tonight, right? Our own goals, which my feeling is we've got to take this on as an issue. It's I don't
conversation, but Francis Drake is also one of the later starting schools. Do you feel that's an issue for parents where maybe if they don't have before school care, they drop off, it's 8:45. That's a late time for parents who are working.
So we have a before the school program.
We do.
Charge, yeah.
We do.
Well, we don't have. Remember, the federal money we got was supposed to help these very people who we're talking about.
Right,
Today.
I'm just trying to think outside the
No,
box,
and-
all the different things.
She does about just.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we're in charge of the budget, so we can allocate, right? We can put funds in directions that we feel are important. So you're right, maybe maybe that's a school that's starting too early and we're losing some kids there.
There's the one right list.
It's perfect.
It's staffing.
Well, everything's an incentive today, right?
Yeah.
Money for ice cream, and 3 trips to the Bahamas. You gotta say,
I was actually gonna say that.
Go ahead.
That was one of the responses on the one. I was curious if you tried any incentives like that, because kids would go crazy for an ice cream party or something.
Honestly, I particularly have a mixed feeling about that, because I would want the student to want to be there because I want to be there.
Okay.
Because I just feel great coming here. I feel safe. I feel loved. I belong here. We could do a celebration of sorts as a school, but I particularly don't go along with that philosophy of
I think at the elementary level, there's an added level because it's not just the student needing to get there. They need to have to.
Just get them some from the bus.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
high school students probably don't.
You're right. You start with the ice cream and then you send them, you know, ice cream, the short cakes, there's cakes. You know,
There's a.
principle. That's the whole dogma thing.
All right, so I'll move on. I don't want to take up you all night.
No, it's actually, understand,
Yeah.
you can put all the slides up.
Yeah.
It's really this.
Yeah,
Conversation
conversation.
like that helps me understand it from your level.
I love it.
What's going on in your school
Yeah.
every day that you're trying to, right? We can sit here and give you all the miracle potions you need
Yeah.
to fix the problem, but that's not reality,
Right.
right? So
Yeah, and as usual, you know, we feel free, love visitors and take a bit around and see, and we ask more questions and love to have you guys over.
Your building looks great.
Yeah.
So
and celebrate the fact, I mean, when you had the international night,
Oh my goodness.
that's priceless.
I know, right? I include a couple pictures, you'll see in a minute.
Just go ahead.
So this is just a list. I'm not gonna go through all of them. Just, you know, some of the things that we do at school.
Yes.
So some of the activities we do, you know, we, after the pandemic, we're happy to come back
Yes.
sort of full force again. And so there's the list of things that we've done already, and others that are still, coming up. So, we send things out all the time. We do have a school-based, calendar that I believe is posted for the district. Love to have you over anytime. Next.
And don't forget, it helps when you send us an email, right?
Sure.
Our stuff goes in the spam like everybody else. So
Sounds
when you
good.
let us know, when other principals have let us know.
Yeah.
Members show up.
Sounds good. So, talking of which, here's some pictures of some of the events that we've had. So just kind of we'll roll it through and, guys can just enjoy that. That's part of the International Night.
So thank incentives.
Oh, it's kind of scary in the name, in the number, but I love it. Yeah, so that's kind of the last one, but we love our school. I think I'm fortunate to work with an amazing group of people who really, truly, I'll say, care for these children and for the families, and that's the work, right? And one of the things that I anytime we meet with faculty and teachers, it's like, you know, try to remember from time to time, why do you do this work? What moves you, right? Because if you forget that, then you're gonna lose a little bit of that focus. So, but if you consistently remember, why did I get into this profession? And you see the difference you make every day. Like you walk into a classroom, to a kindergarten classroom, any grade, really, and you know the story behind a student, it gives you goosebumps. It really does, you know. And so I feel so privileged to know so much about all the students that I can just walk into a classroom and be like, wow, look at what he's able to do. I can tell you countless stories, but I won't keep you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you have goals, like academic goals that you have? I didn't see that for this year.
Myself or for the school?
For the school.
So we definitely have. I can talk about that for a long time too. We do.
One or two that are like.
Yeah. So one of the things which it wasn't in the slide, it was not data, but it was just mentioned, is one of the goals is a focus on a culture of achievement. And that's a big statement, you know, a culture of achievement. What does a school look like when it has a culture of achievement embedded that is there? So it's complex. It's a big job. It's a big work, and it doesn't happen overnight. But we certainly are addressing that very intentionally. So there are very specific indicators of a culture of achievement. And actually, I don't know here, but it's long. We also have excellent instruction. What does it look like? What's an excellent instruction look like? Whether it's math, ELA, math doesn't matter. What does it look like? So that's a very intentional goal for all teachers. Their goals, the teachers' goals, are based off of that. Sense of belonging was the other piece, right? So goals 100%. And one of the other focuses that we have for our goals is, and we are studying that work, have a very good consistency when it comes to data analysis and use of protocols to inform instruction. So yes, we do have a lot of those goals, and each one of the teachers have those. We work together to design to agreed upon steps how we're gonna meet that, and then you do it, reassess, do it again and see what works and adjust. But yeah, we do.
Yeah, I mean, if you have numbers that you can share, and yeah, I think, because like you said, right, like every teacher's gonna do it differently, but they, you know, go into a classroom and say, what does this mean to you? How are you living that every day in your classroom? They may have a different, but everything is aligned in the same vision.
It is, and that's the great thing about having that level of consistency across the school. In that even if a first grade teacher and a second grade teacher get into the same meeting, we can talk the same language because we intentionally design goals that they're different in terms of content because it's different grade levels, but it's aiming at the same
That's how you get people to get different ideas. Different people is have standard goals, but you let people
Different
achieve
ways to
different
get there.
ways,
Yeah,
right?
so they can work that horizontally, meaning across grade, within grade levels, but they also can have those level of conversation vertically, from, you know, what does this standard look like in fifth grade all the way to first grade, because they're there, right? So to have those meaningful conversations, and so that's one of the benefits of that.
We will be, we're gonna start that project this year on Discord, we're tearing it up, that's a complete.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing about it.
The school, that's $3 million, it went from $1 million to 3. The state was extremely impressed, they couldn't believe, A, how many students walked to school? 2, walked to work, and 3, how many people made it to the mall or market basket or whatever, they were amazed, so.
It's a busy street.
It is, and, but we're also gonna have to make sure that we're in constant communication with people.
Yeah, I've met with some of them already. So.
Yeah. Because we want everybody to get to and from safely and bus route or speed doors.
Just don't take a start.
And if we could just get every kid excited about school like they do the skateboard park,
Right?
they're still out there.
Maybe that
Still
should be
parties,
the-
they're out there.
Maybe that should be the incentive.
Right? Outside the book. we could
That looks so good.
Class and skateboard.
I'm like, wow, you guys don't mess around. All right,
So the next three presentations, I'm hoping will give you some information as to who's setting their goals. The 4 loving points that we used this year were around attendance, which we've been talking about. We need students in person as much as possible. We understand the value of that. We're looking at closing the achievement gap with our ELL students as the fastest growing population. And currently we have a substantial, as well as building in safety for all of our buildings and the work that Steve is doing and what was expanded on. And all of this is consumed in our professional development. We have drowned ourselves this year in professional development. So we're going to start with Ms. Renee Costa with ELL.
Mid-year update on our Ls.
Mid-year.
So as of Monday, we have 850 ELL students in Leominster Public Schools. And so each week, or each couple of weeks, we increase by 5 to 8. So, and then we lose a couple here and there, but we're not seeing a decline. We're always seeing an increase, whether it's 1 or 2 or 5. So we continue to have the population grow. Some of these slides might look familiar, so I just wanted to kind of refresh what we did over in the fall. English language learner, or ELL or ESL, student who has the opportunity to receive English. In addition to taking all content areas. So we have an SEI approach here where they do get pulled out for their language instruction, but they are fully included in their content areas of all other areas of math, social studies, and science, and social emotional and anything else they want to take part in. ELL has to be tested every year. It's a law. So this year, right now, we are in the process of it. We're going to go over some of that, what it looks like, and the time it takes for our students to do this test. Students are using their listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills to learn the academic content, share information, and discuss ideas. So as we talked about some of our new initiatives. In the ELA, it is about our student engagement and our conversations we're having with students, so that even our ELL students who are incorporated, especially at the elementary level, in our conversations, that they are hearing and seeing and having it modeled for them, as well as asking them to participate as much as possible. So it's really been a good PD for some of our turnaround in our ELA elementary PD. So we've had These skills that will allow students to work on their education, language testing, measure the student's skill in all 4 domains. Next slide is the participation requirements. Students in K through 12, we don't do preschool yet, must take access for L. If they reported in October 2022 SIMS, or they arrive after October 2022 SIMS, we will report it as L in March of 2023. So even our students who are walking through our doors as of yesterday are already on the schedule to take access in our buildings, because we need to have them all access tested, whether they are brand new, day one, or they've been here and they have not felt yet. But students are not required to take the access only in 2 areas. If they reported in October 2022 and they are exited from ELL before testing begins, so sometimes they will be exited because of whether it's special ed or their disability has changed and it's gone to more part where it's not an ELL issue as a disability. And in kindergarten, we have significant cognitive disabilities. They would take an alternative access test, but unfortunately, that's not going to be available until 2024. So our kindergartners who are in our life skills or our sub-separates do not take access at this time, even though they do have an ELL label. Access testing for ESL students taking place right now in our schools from January 5th, February 10th. Each student takes the access. That's assessing comprehension and communication in English state to state as individuals every year. At the end of the year, school reports will show us information on the same 8 categories as we talked about earlier in the fall in the 4 domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. In these composite areas, there's 4 areas. They need to get in literacy, 50% reading, 50% writing, a 3.9 or better, and an overall score, and that's 35% reading, 35% writing, 15% listening, and 15% speaking, sorry. And they need to get a 4.2 overall. If they do not have both of those scores on the same testing dates, then they will continue in our ELL program. So sometimes we have students who do really well in the overall, but their literacy isn't at a 3.8. We still cannot spell them until they get to a 3.9. We use this access testing. Obviously, next slide, sorry, we use this access testing for all the end of the year placements. Even though this score is basically referencing January, when we do a reclassification meeting, we do look over all the data, because the data is on the same format with the access, so that we make sure that we place students appropriately of where they are and where their comfortability might be. So just to let you know that every student has to take all 4 tests, and here's the approximate time for each test. It's 40 minutes for listening, 45 minutes for reading, speaking 35 minutes, and that is done individually. Every student has to do speaking individually with the instructor, and then writing's approximately 65 minutes, up to 65 minutes, depending on the student. We've got guidelines and suggestions. These doesn't include their breaks, their actual testing time, because it is an untimed test. So some students will sit there, some students will move on. Some students will break down and take a deep breath and then be able to break and then have to go back. And then all our K students currently right now will be tested individually, and they're given the full test at one time. So and that takes about 45 minutes to an hour. I was at Free Street today, and one little student wasn't going to give up. She was still there over an hour, and she's like, "I just want to get this answer." So they really try hard. I know our administration does a great job, and our ESL staff does a great job trying to make sure that they do give 110%. We know how important it is for them to have this. The next slide. Some of the things that we talk about in universal tools, these students have the availability of all these things on this piece of paper right here. They can scratch paper, they can do audio aids, we have color and background as well. Like a sparks.
There you go.
Yeah, but it might have just go to December.
That's okay. So
Better than getting electric.
highlighting paper, we have, some of them have like colored, things that go over their things, so people concentrating on one word, one sentences. So they're allowed to use any of that during the test. If they ask for it, it's available for them. They are not allowed to use like they can, uncast, like, bilingual dictionary. There's no dictionaries, there's no help with that piece, but, so they can use their pictures and their scrap paper to do what they need to do. Next, please.
You're just trying to get a baseline. They're just trying to see where they're at.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully. So then, when all said and done, we will be giving over an estimated 3,400 tests. 850 students times 4 tests, and that's not including the students that come in between now and then, February 5th. And then these reports are the same ones that I showed you before that you will get in the in the spring. And that will help us, again, look at our yearly progress, see what all the assessments are saying, whether, and we use math, Dibbles, iReady, depending on what grade level they're at. We have some tests in the high school that they're doing now too with our ELA and our math. So we will look at all that data, and as a team, we decide what it's going to be for next. So we are next slide. It's really, I have to say, thank you to our ESL teachers and our administration, because it's very time consuming. And they have to make sure all the tickets printed and all the tests are locked up, and they have to make sure that everyone's there, and they call for attendance. Our guidance staff are calling for attendance to make sure kids are there, even though they're sent the letter home on them when they're going to test. And the other, we have to give a shout out to our classroom teachers, because when our ESL staff is doing this, our classroom teachers are taking on the those students all day long with minimal support. So we know that sometimes that could be difficult too when they're not used to having a student, and they're usually having them gone for 60 minutes to 75 minutes. But they're supporting them. They're making sure that they're getting what they need. Our ESL teachers are talking and moving on with them. And then, our parents, we've really have continued to, between the LPAC and ourselves, talking about how it's important for them to be there, and attendance is important, and learning and participating with their peers is important. So we keep sending that message home, and our parents are really trying hard to make sure they're not missing the testing blocks anyways.
And your parent liaisons.
Yep. Billing has parent liaison. And then our tech staff, because as soon as there's a panic, when a kid's screen goes black, our tech staff is called, and they're like, what are we doing next? And so our tech staff is definitely working hand in hand with our ESL teachers and administrators to make sure it's a smooth transition, and kids aren't getting frustrated, and that they are getting what they need, and they're able to complete the test. So, but we are looking forward to sharing that data at the end of the year once again, and that we just keep them going, and so we're going to keep making sure that they're getting those tests done and being positive. I did add one more thing about the LPAC. I just wanted to talk quickly, speaking of ELL, our LPAC parents, our advisory team there has been really working strong. They work really hard. They are looking for parents to become more involved with their schools and part of the LPAC. So they have 2 positions that are open. They wanted to hold that, make sure that I put that out there for everybody. So Paul and I talked about it, that we would. One's a secretary, like a assistant to the secretary, and one is called a vocal, so they fill in wherever that spot might be. They have 2 more meetings. They had 2 meetings already. One was a successful potluck dinner at the in December. In the midst of the concert was going on, or the play was going on. There was a lot going on. And the next 2 meetings will be virtual on Thursday the 2nd at 6:30 and Thursday, April 6th at 6:30. And they'll send out that through Paula's messages, Sunday message. And then the other thing I want to put in one's radar, and they're hoping people will not plan anything on this date of May 18th at 6:30. Going to be family fun night. So if Paula and LPAC have anything to say, they'll have a carnival probably out in the front yard. But they really want to have some engagement and get people going. So, and we just reached out to our PTOs. So we have a meeting next week with them to figure out how we can get our Spanish and Portuguese and our multilingual families to our PTOs and get them involved, and hoping that we'll support them with the parent liaison being able to be there to help with translations, but also the LPAC is gonna try to hit a meeting at each school. And looking at changing some of that around, maybe not at night, maybe it's at 9 o'clock during the day, the cafeteria with a little just breakfast meet and greet. So they can get themselves into school and meet the adults that are helping out. So that's when we kind of wrap up. I know it's a little bit more than access, but I just figured I better get it out there. Nice plug. Nice plug. You know, that's it. Any questions around the access testing? Yes, Ronnie?
When you started your first, day, you said it was 800,
Yes.
it's an increase by 5 to 8 each week. Devil in me, you know, do you have a saturation?
No.
I'm just asking, guys.
No.
We
You
didn't
know
say
what?
it. We didn't say it.
I know, but you haven't said that.
No, we didn't, we didn't.
No, we
That
don't.
was the speaker that went over there. Right.
No, you know, like, you know, we talk about that and we talk about, you know, where sometimes the locations and stuff, but right now, every student that comes in Leominster deserves an education and we accept them and they're part of Leominster Public Schools. So if you know of any ESL teaching staff, we're still looking. I need ESL staff.
I think it was Paul saying about early, school, after school classes. And one of the reasons why that's right, there was a wait list. And the devil is wondering, you know, how many people are available and what or how can you make them come? If you build, you know, if you build them come, how many people in ideally do you need? Somebody jump in.
No, she keeps a very close eye on that. She's hired quite a few paras to tutors to teachers covering the populations. We still have some openings. We'd love to have that, but right now her ratios are at workable rate. And if more students come, we will.
We'll just keep putting the staff involved and hopefully getting them.
She
in place
monitors
so that-
that all the time.
Because I guess basically, that's just me. I'm so sorry.
What were you going to say?
Oh, no, it's because when they brought about the early, early
Before and after
schools, both before and after, now there was. There's
Didn't
no
have enough
wait list.
people to
How
work it.
do you deal with the wait list? Because those are on a wait list. How long do they have to wait? And does that transfer
No,
to ELL?
No.
they come right.
Because the 30th me, we just had, where is, he's gone, Andrea. And
Andrea.
he was saying how, you know, sometimes they don't have enough people. What,
So we get very creative. Groups get larger, we shift people, we shift staff, wherever the need is.
is this something that's lost? That's my fear. Something gets lost in translation.
Job on addressing, making sure that all those students are getting the services that they need. We have to. We cover it, we hire staff. It might be a parent, it might be a tutor, but make sure the students get what they need. And this year, we've been hiring nonstop.
Anybody who walks the door, you agree? Absolutely, be your tours. No, and you know what? We're not even looking for, I mean, even our parents, they're some of our people at church that are coming in just to work with kids. And we're okay with that. Our teachers are really working hard to help them provide them with the instruction they need. And some of that modeling they need to help that doing that. And we're just gonna keep moving forward and advertising and hiring the best candidates that come through Leominster's doors. To support them, because we know that's an important group, plus it's Paula's goal. So Ron, if it's Paula's goal, then we get what we want. I just keep asking, and I keep getting.
I see, one thing I want to point out before I forget, my observation is, I see a lot of families walking around the Gallagher building. So we have a sign up front with where everything is, but people will walk, they'll park, they'll go in the side door, they're not sure where they ought to be. They're in the building, they know it's in the building somewhere. And I think if we better mark where the parent information center is, in a couple of different languages, something that's appropriate to the building, like we put that sign up, I think would really help, because I'm constantly, people just don't know where it is.
No, I know, it's
I'd
hard.
love for you to get an electronic sign on
It-
instead of. Nice, you solid plan.
We can get you a
I
sign.
was gonna say, I think you just volunteer to do that.
But like on that time, if you're trying to keep it historic, you know, but I think people, I do see people and they're walking around. First of all, sometimes they don't speak the language.
I know.
They don't know where to go. That it's not all the entrances are handicap accessible. There are people that are there all day who work in the building, park there. So now that they have to park somewhere else, I mean, so we could just be more customer friendly, service friendly.
Yeah.
If
So the good thing about it is that we have in our PIC center, we have a Spanish speaking and a Portuguese speaking, and we can continue to make that piece. So I will definitely have them.
Yeah, I was just saying, if we had, like,
Sign.
if people just knew there, they would park
Yeah.
maybe closer up the hill. And I see them walking around the building. I mean, not just them,
Mhm.
everybody just walks around that.
Let's say,
And it's a,
walking to that building lost, people poke their heads out.
it's a big building. Yeah, you get that question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always look like you're listening for the toilet paper or the paper towels or something. But there is constantly people around the building. The court, no trouble at all.
I
They
know.
always know where to go to the court. I don't know.
That's my friend Danny. I think he's on tonight. I'll see if I can get him to sign it.
There you go.
Are we all set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, where are we going?
This one is, just gonna give us a mid-year update on attendance where we're at.
All right, there we go.
Yes.
Just one. Good evening, everyone.
I think you're good.
The one pager that's coming around to you has a lot of numbers on it, so for the display, we split it up into two different ones. But the two areas for attendance that we are monitoring at the school level and at the district level are the percent of our students who are chronically absent, and then our percent average daily attendance. So we, Paula had talked at the beginning of the year about what those definitions are, but on your sheet, there are there's information at the bottom, again, to remind us, for a child to be chronically absent, they are absent for 10% or more of their days of membership. During COVID, so last year and the year before, they bumped that up to 20%. So a child would be considered chronically absent if they were absent 20% or more. We do not have direction yet this year, but at the state level, we believe it will be at 10%. In Leominster, we are tracking it at 10%. We'd like to get back to pre-pandemic rates. So this information that you have is of last Friday. So through 85 days, these are the percentages. And just as a comparison, gave you the 2021-2022 data. The data that the state will be using for accountability will be the 2019. So they do 2 years worth of data. 2019 will be 40% of our score, and 2023 will be 60% of our score. Once they determine what they're going to do for accountability, that's still up in the air a little bit. But overall, our schools are headed in the right direction. Not quite as quickly as we would like. We all have a sense of urgency about this. You heard from Andres a few minutes ago. He said it very well. He's doing his best at his school to really instill a sense of belonging at the school, get the children to feel that they're a part of something bigger than themselves and they want to be there. You heard that from Patty King when she did a presentation for Johnny Appleseed, from Doug Nebel when he did his presentation. So the work they are doing in the schools is about the social emotional learning, a sense of belonging, and then, of course, all the relationships. So relationships among and between the students, the teachers, the administrators, the custodians, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers. It's a big push from them. And then what got in our way again this year was the flu, something called RSV, which I guess has been around a long time, and now we know more about that. And still, unfortunately, COVID virus with a few new types of the virus that are popping up. So those are things clearly that we can't do anything about. The message from our administrators in the schools is if your children are ill, then they need to stay home. Please let us know if there's anything we can do. But on the other hand, again, this sense of belonging, the school as the hub of the culture and the community is something that all of our administrators are working on.
So to paraphrase it all,
Yes,
things good. We had data pretty consistent with every other time that schools existed. And then came COVID. And then now we're sort of living in COVID. So something happened between sort of COVID and now, I mean, right? I mean, so my question would be, how you can find this out is how well did these students do who are chronically absent were they also absent during COVID? In other words, were they not the ones that turned on the Chromebook and participated? Did they just check out at the beginning of COVID? Is there any?
so we do have some children, although in Leominster, the big push to get the technology into the homes and to get them wired up, it was a great push.
Right.
And our teachers all said that they really did have children, almost all of their children on. Were they on as much as we would have liked?
Right.
We don't. And then the virtual piece of it, so building a relationship with a kindergarten, first grader, or second grader over a little Chromebook.
Of course.
That, I think that's a big piece of it. And so that relationship that they had, it was then disrupted for a couple of years. And the big push now is to get those relationships back strong in the buildings with the students, the teachers, the parents. And so that's a piece that we need to come back from COVID.
Right. But what I'm trying to get to is are these students that just never turned on their Chromebooks, never participated? As soon as COVID happened, down it went, end of story?
We had very few of those.
Okay.
And
So
we searched for them.
Somewhere along the way,
Yeah.
they've checked out. I don't know.
So it's a different kind of checking in, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. The virtual piece was not the same. And so now we're back in school and some of the children, I enjoyed the virtual piece.
That's what I was getting. Right.
Sure.
We move in a world of hybrid where similar to the work environment where some people really perform better at home or wherever they are, and at the beach with the waves in the background, and others can't. They need to be in a structured, environment with supervision. Is that where it's going? I mean, it's the national trend. Somebody has to tell us what happened between COVID and now. Something happened.
Well, and education, especially K-12, it's an institution. We did pivot dramatically through COVID to this virtual space. Now we are trying to make decisions, and I can ask Paula, the urban superintendents are really pushing at some type of a hybrid piece to support the information that we learned during COVID. We're not there yet, though.
There has to be some connection. I mean, there has to be. Melissa, and then Matt.
If yours is related for that.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I personally, the consensus I always got when we would talk about, how COVID went was, I never really heard a student say I learned better virtually, and I'm not speaking for every student saying that was never the case, but just personally, I've never seen that or heard of that, but I have heard a lot of students say that they felt a little more, I guess, free, and just like a lot more able to go for other things in their life, like get jobs or go
Other experiences.
Yeah, study.
Or
or
the school hours were different.
For example, I started playing drums here, like stuff like that, like recreational activities. But I don't ever really remember seeing kids directly say that it was easier for them.
I would directly contrast that. I
Oh,
know students who were not doing well.
okay.
And that not having the distractions of other students is exactly what they need.
You mean they needed to be classroom. They,
No, they need to be home and not have anyone
right,
around them.
okay, that's what I'm
There
saying.
is a couple students, not a lot, but there are a few that I know who, when they were in the building, they were horrible. But when they
We're
were
focused
just
on something they-
responsibility for themselves and they didn't have to worry about anybody else, they were able to.
And they can gravitate to other interests.
Yes, they were just,
Whatever they are.
they were much more successful.
I heard about kids
Well,
that
were
were
there-
bullied
I'm just curious.
being more successful.
Was it that
About the
there's,
student version of the great resignation.
I'm just curious, was it that their grades were higher? Okay.
They would, there would be a teacher that they were like, okay,
Oh, and they.
you're my point person, and they
Okay, that's
would
good.
just,
It's like
Because I also
difference
think,
between
I don't
working
think
out
that was
and
live.
working at home. Some people.
Yeah.
I also thought it was a lot easier too, so like most people thought that too, so that would make sense if the grade went like that.
it wasn't
It's that
just
they
the
actually
grades,
enjoyed that.
but it was just,
That's good.
you know, it's not a ton,
Yeah, no, it's very few, yeah.
very few,
That's-
but
They're
there,
important.
there are individual cases that I know of that, like, a student who just is not being successful in the building.
Was it a certain grade level that you saw that at?
This is high school.
Yeah.
And that might have.
So that's my experience.
So maybe we need, a young adult Peace Corps or something. But honestly, I'm not kidding, something, because they're not coming back. And I don't know, if anybody thinks next year is gonna get 10% better, are we gonna reach that certain level with just that, this group of students that found other interests? You know, the worst thing,
It was.
we used to have this big joke during summers, don't get a job roofing. Because you make a lot of money in the summer roofing, and you think you're gonna make, well, eventually your back gives out, your hands get, that's nice for a summer job. But some people go on and think, wow, I'm gonna make 2,000 a week, you know, until you fall off the roof, your back, or that's an injury. So,
Well, what happened was they were given a taste of this like independence that they never had from school. You
Right.
grow up going to school every single day, you're stuck to your routine. And when they get a taste of that, kids are like, I'm not going today. I want to go do this thing that I was doing during COVID. And it just makes people, it's almost like when you get a taste of that greener grass on the other side, then you just like, you want to stay there. I'm not saying I would.
some people retire and enjoy it, other people go out of their minds. And so
It's like.
I think you're gonna reach a particular point where it's gonna be at level, and they're just getting these people back. Now, whether or not these other classes, these other groups here, other schools, you might be able to shrink it there, but you just might run out of some of these people that just never come back.
I think it might also be different, if I may,
Yeah.
with the, like elementary, middle school, and high
Absolutely.
school. So, we are trying to take whatever positive things we can from the pandemic and from the virtual learning that took place, maybe with a hybrid model, but it's been clear that the elementary students really do need to have a relationship with a teacher more knowing of that. So, right, so we do, we're not gonna give up on any of them. We're doing our very best to see, we want these kids in school, we want them safe. That was another issue, not having eyes on some of our high-risk students was a concern during COVID. So the buildings are still very much focused on this, but it may be different at different levels.
I mean, even
As
if
we
they
go forward.
communicated and said, we're schooling our kids at home, we're not part of an organized group or anything, but we're doing a lot more, we're going to a lot more, we're taking them on day trips. I'd be encouraged by that, to know that some sort of education is going on. Right now, you're saying you have an aggregate of students that are out there, you don't know what's going on at all.
But I think our overall enrollment is not down. And our state average, according to superintendent, because I just asked her, is 50% attendance rate. So most of our schools are right at that mark. I mean, obviously we want more,
Right.
but we're, I think, coming back. I do have a question about LCE, and I know it's a smaller population, so one child can skew it, but I'm surprised their numbers aren't higher because it's such a more personalized, big picture learning. They've got the internship, so I'm surprised their stats are a little lower than everybody else's.
Is there a logistical piece to that where they might be getting missed because they're not checking in?
Just hang on, Melissa was next, and I didn't get.
That's
to
it,
it.
but
No, go ahead.
no, finish that thought.
We might never finish that thought.
So mine, and I don't know if you know the answer is about Fallbrook. In general, when the daily attendance has improved, then the chronically absent has improved. And that's the like all of them except for Fallbrook. Is that like a pool of students that's greatly impacting that number, or do we?
There's a cluster of students who have a significant attendance concern. So they have more than 10% of their absence. So it does skew it. And to be honest, Fallbrook's, they're bouncing back. They were always very, very low as far as chronically absent, very, very high as far as their percent in school, their average daily attendance. So they're actually doing as well as can be expected. But you're right.
They're chronically absent.
Yes. Yeah. And so that it does tend to be a group of children who they may have 30, 40 days out.
So if somebody's, and they get it, like the student doesn't show up the first, like if they haven't shown up for school at the beginning of the school year and they transfer to Leominster or something, like, does that carry over from one district to another? Absenteeism?
It doesn't carry over, if I'm understanding you
Yeah.
correctly. So if we have a child who was with us in June, and then come September, they're not with us. Where we hold them on our books unless we hear from the parent or we hear from another school saying that if they're in Massachusetts or in other states, we're going to get a request for records and they're going to say, we now have this family with us. If we don't get them, we do carry them on our roll until we find them, because it's very important for us to know where these children are. So some of them have that concern. We do have the ability, though, let's say that a family moved to Florida and we didn't find out, and we had them on our roll for the first 2 weeks of September. Once we find out where they are in Florida and Florida tells us when they enrolled, we can go back in and negate those. So, right, we want to erase that.
Like,
You also have to code it's correctly, so like if you're absent because of a medical reason for an extended period of time, there's a way to code that so that doesn't run against you.
Actually, all absences are absences.
Just
Really good.
because I know, because I
they
thought
correct me.
long-term hospitalizations, there was, we track a different. coding.
I don't, honestly, I think, that, the city of Boston, some other places tracked it. Their absenteeism and said people shut the laptop during COVID and they haven't come back yet. And I think you've got a certain group of probably older students.
Right.
Who went out and got the job or, just found, what, life's a lot better without going for whatever bullying. I don't know if they get up early in the morning, whatever reason. And I think, I don't know that, I think they're gonna improve by percentages, but I don't think they're gonna.
We are tracking those people. And if they're 16 or older, then unfortunately they will be a dropout from us. And we do have a couple more students this year who have dropped out than we have had. We've had a very low dropout rate in Leominster. It's ticked
At
up,
least they're
not
honest.
dramatically, but yes,
But then
correct.
they come off our books and then we don't get the,
Yes.
the funding, and that's the alarming part.
I just had a question on the structure of how this issue would be. Getting into some of this. So each school is responsible for coming up with some sort of attendance plan? Or is it kind of district led? Top down, or the problems being worked on bottom up?
So I set the goal and however the schools want to address it. It tends to be pretty uniform. Guidance departments are together. We give them the information every Monday morning. They get a report who was out last week and how many days. Entries, we follow them one day. Messages, I keep saying, hey, just let us know if you're sick. We just want to know that you're okay, you don't need anything. As their own abilities to be addressed this.
I'm wondering with this, it's almost at crisis level, right? Give it time to kind of put together a task force from each school. like some schools that have ideas that might work in other schools. Get reached, you know, left. And without sharing information on what works and what doesn't. There might be some way to kind of get them all together. And it might, you know, Matt's point, having a survey, but it might actually start a fire within the faculty to get my ideas being listened to. Let's listen more.
I think it favors back to Andrea. Get your friends corrected. If you, make yourself chocolate by
Saying words, so, you know. Just a question. As you were saying, the trouble that he had.
Did you go to St. Cecilia's?
Yes.
They make yourself chocolate bars like the book, the chocolate book?
Don't even go there. You know the chocolate wars.
Anyway.
What we're saying, man,
Anyway,
It's required reading.
what am I supposed to do, Melissa?
I know,
All right. Saying what Andrea said. Andrea saying. The problem. I get my R's and E's mixed up. What he was saying, the trouble he's having, piggybacking on what Josh. Is it really a need for a task force, or is it something more endemic, something more? You don't want schools, the individual schools, to function in silo.
I think.
We talk about this all the time.
The task force, I think, is a good idea because community leaders, like spiritual leaders, athletic team coaches, like bringing in people that can influence making these things and reinforce, like, hey, you know, the term's ending, you know, on Sunday in church, you know, saying, hey, the term's ending, I know term's ending in school, it's important. Make sure that your kids show up on Monday, or, you know, the first day back after vacation is important, just reinforcing those ideas. And I think sharing, you know, not just school leaders, but outside community leaders.
We just have to be careful because whether we like it or not, we are the establishment. They're not. They look at us. That's the end.
You're talking about the kids?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just like the kids, just like when we were kids, we looked at the adult and scan
At my name?
So
I like
what is the attendance, like you have from 21, 22, but what about from 17, 18? You know, like, are we that far off?
Yeah, we're very, very far off.
That's right.
So, 2019.
Yeah.
I will get that for you. I mean, I have that in my, you know,
The
walking
other
around.
thing that might help
Because
is,
it would be just
Sure.
to see what the
Yep.
difference is.
Absolutely.
this says if you have 9 or more days absent. Right?
Well, right now, this is a snapshot. So
Yeah.
if I was in school in Leominster from the first day of school until now, and I missed 9 days, I would be considered chronically absent.
All right. How many kids came in September and we've never seen since? Do we know what that percentage is?
I don't have that in my,
Roughly, yes, it's not gonna hold you to it.
probably have a 5% churn. So 5% of our children over the summer move somewhere else. And we have, you know, 5.
So these kids are coming, they're just not coming regularly.
Right, so
That's what you're
for the
saying.
most part, and when I ran these numbers, that's what it is. I'm looking at every single child and their days in membership and how many out. Many of them had 85 days in membership. So they're our kids. They're here with us, but they've missed 2 weeks of school.
But they come,
They're coming.
but not, so we know. we know
Yes.
A couple things. Most kids are coming. We've lost some for good where they're just not coming. So at least we know that. We know what the data is. We know they're coming sometimes, right? So at least we know where they're at. We know that where they are, we can kind of reach out. So I agree to some extent. I think the schools are trying to do it on their own. And it's a community problem. It can't always be, you know, we throw the problem over to the wall because it's school related. We have a community outreach team now that really works well. Police department and civilians. I mean, we're working with mental illness every day. I mean, we're working with things I never dreamt we'd ever be working with, right? I think to that approach, and not to gobble up everybody's time, but I think Josh is right. And you know, we'd offer up our staffs and I think you've got to reach out to these other groups because I don't know why they're coming. I think we can all draw our own opinion as to why they're coming, but they are coming. They're just not coming all the time.
I don't hold the parents accountable.
It's, you can drag them to court and everything, but the kid doesn't want to come to school. It's just
You have
complex.
parents and doctors' notes if they're out of school for a certain. Okay,
We can take out 50% of that.
this child had the COVID and the flu for 1 week,
Right.
so they were out for, those 5 days, and then this happened.
So thank you.
Because that would be a very different scenario than somebody.
I'm
who-
taking notes, so that's,
It's
I
vouching for-
will follow up on, a task force and also bringing, at the very least, starting with bringing our administrators together. I know they talk to each other in the grade spans. Like our 2 middle school principals are always talking together, our 5 elementary are always talking together, but we can certainly make that, more explicit and then, bringing in support from the community. Thank you.
I love the task force thing. I think also like involving students directly into that would be a great idea. Because I know of several, so there's a club I'm in. Well, actually, stuff is how I got this role. So you guys are probably slightly aware of it at least. I know kids like that, if you told them, we need you for something, it doesn't even matter what it is, they would be so excited to my point is there's kids out there that really want to help in any way they can. So I think that involving them, that would spread the word within the student body as well. I think that would be in addition to the task force or instead, whatever.
The world's changed. And we're all sitting around thinking, how was it 20 years ago? Well, it doesn't matter. The world has changed. And, the other thing is the state ought to be coming up. This is a problem everywhere. Everywhere I've been, friends all over the country, California, everywhere, people tell me that we're dealing with the same things. There ought to be, somewhat of a, best practices site somewhere that we can go to the Mass Association of School Committees, look, see what other people are doing, because they're in Marblehead or Cohasset or Marlboro. I don't care where they are. I just want to know what it is that you're doing that's helping to resolve the problem. But I think the world has really changed, and it changed. The world changed. And we're going to have to do something where, at one time, Chewy LaBelle would show up with a car. He banged on the door, he wouldn't leave. He'd like, the young Shelton there, whatever his name is in he'd keep banging on the door until you answered it. And if you didn't, he'd wait outside till you put the trash out on Tuesday, and he'd catch you and say, how come your kid's not in school? And then they'd take you to court. He'd walk in front of Judge Jelinas or whoever it would be, and the kid would go to court. Doesn't mean the kid would be happy if one to go to court. A lot of them would run away and they'd be back again. That's not now. Something's changed. We need new tools to deal with it. That's where I think, get us all together. It's a community issue and see what we can come up with. But
Kids are the ones with phones.
Yes.
And that's what I was gonna say. I know at the high school level, in my own classroom, if someone's absent, their friends know. And their friends will tell me, and they'll tell me, oh, they're sick, or they have an appointment, or whatever. So having that accountability, kind of having a buddy that is gonna be the one that's checking on you, even for our younger kids, if they have a school buddy who's gonna be asking, maybe they're not comfortable talking to the teacher or administrator, but maybe if they had a buddy who they're like, could just say, something's going on, and try to get that kind of inclusion and get a very community. Individual relationships.
I think you asked half the kids in my school, no, not half, way more than that. Like most of the kids in my school, if this was a problem, they wouldn't know. I mean, I'm just saying, I think another thing is just genuinely communicating of each school and letting them know that this is something that we really care about. That there's a problem, be frank with them, so they know that those and their friends.
Do we see common themes, like, just pretty little?
That's what I asked. Is like,
Is there like a certain area that, is it, for example, do we see like third graders, like most of it, because they go on vacations, some. No. But. But is there like common theme that we could actually pinpoint, like that might be different for each, like for elementary, middle, and high school that?
yeah, but how many vacations could they take?
You'd be surprised.
That's the problem.
You'd be surprised.
I don't know. I mean, you're right. What is the common
What's the
denominator?
common-
When you ask the kid or the family, that's what I was trying to get is,
Like,
what do they
if
say?
parents working and they need the kids to stay home because one kid home is sick, and what are the things that we could address the help this.
Grandma home alone.
Keep going around,
somebody
yeah, keep
watch
going around the neighborhood, having the same
But
question.
Sal's point. Might be another something.
I, it's, once in a while.
Listen, guys, don't. He's saying, could it be, could it be the fourth grade? Could it be the fifth grade? Is it something in the grade itself? Walk in the room for each individual grade. Could it have something that grabs?
I guess that I am not thinking that that's likely to be true. I'm thinking it's much more likely that in different school systems, in different districts, it's
I
likely
just
to
want to
be.
bring it up.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's more likely to
Come on,
be,
guys, just
you know,
tell me.
in one of the schools, it's good because they're all on vacations, and another is because they need to take them for travel.
So I
And
think
that,
part of
I
what.
mean, we have a very large.
Sure.
Yeah, and if I may, we are letting the administration, every building know, and they get something from our technology department once a week. They get something from me once a month. And it tells them the individual students. So we can easily give them numbers, but really we do need, to your point, Melissa, about Fallbrook. If there's a family and they've been out, then we need to know who that family is and individualize our relationship, our outreach to that family. And we have the ability to do that. And that's what they're doing in the buildings.
Well, assume the teacher has the best relationship.
Absolutely.
To be able to find out, hey, what's going on at home that
Yeah.
you're not coming in. I mean, I get, listen, the whole world's changed. The kid would rather look at TikTok than, math. I mean, for a lot of kids, and that's just, the world's changing on us. Maybe it's, can we support you with, software? Is there something else we can do to make sure you get an education, whether it's in or out? I think it's frustrating, because we often, the best, no other generation has ever got the education that these kids have.
And to Brandon and Eileen, we are working closely with Principal Van Select to make sure that we tighten up and that there isn't an error in reporting. If it is a concern because of the student population, seems to be a high-risk population at that school, that could be part of it, but thank you. And we did reach out to Principal
So
Van Select.
let's give the Department of Education, what's their greatest,
So
except for collect data. We all know that we've got, okay, what's there?
If somebody wants it for you, you figure it out.
Oh, okay, right. Good one.
That's part of, I'd be in support of this completely, but I think it's being said several times, our community, our country has changed significantly. Like, is it mental health? Is it the homelessness piece?
Yes.
So we can have a
Yes.
task force, but if
Yes.
we don't have the resources to provide families, we're gonna be at the same spot at the end of the day. And maybe that's where the hybrid needs to some of this. I can't get my child to school that day, but here's 2 days, we can get them back into a classroom or something.
Start somewhere, but maybe it's a tutor helping them out.
The other thing too, that
Possible that would interfere with the writing, because the teacher would have to focus on two different
Right.
groups. at
Nope,
once.
that's a real issue.
the other thing to that point, and I'm so, right, like how many people actually need to go back to their home countries for the exam? And then that, you think about 10 days, that's 2 weeks, and they're gone 3 and 4 weeks. That's already fine.
Breaks down.
Tell us when you went to, where'd you go?
No,
Let's run another.
so a question around, so I love the messaging that you sent out, Paula, about the, during break around if people are feeling sick, they should consult their doctor. What is the messaging that we're sending if somebody calls in and says, hey, my kid's got a cough, or should they stay home? Are we encouraging, what's the messaging? Like,
So we're sending those to the nursing staff. It depends on. If you go over to Fallbrook, they would say send them.
well, that's I know.
Right. So it's about that level of sickness. Is there? So our nurses in the morning are very, very busy. Little Johnny got up. He's got a cough. It's not so bad. I'm gonna try to give him some medicine. And then they have that conversation. It's nice that they're using the nurses. They're using the nurses a lot. Like, can I send them? Did you test them? We have free tests. We have on site. We have at home. Whatever you need, just take a test. But the judgment call has to first really find it by the parent if they've been sent.
Because I know the messaging last year would be different. I'm hoping that it's like we're encouraging people to consult their doctor. Make.
We were getting a lot of calls, and messages over the break that COVID had.
Yeah, I thought your messaging was great.
It was there. It
Yeah.
was there. So, and not everybody chose to take a test. You know, we had the open houses and things like that. So we said, please. That's, so we were just doing a lot of outreach that way.
I think we
It's fine.
we know it's a big issue.
Thanks, Lori.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay. Thank
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I know you've been anxiously awaiting
Yeah.
my arrival here. Um, I think you forgot I was on the agenda, or you would have had a few less questions at the time.
You showed up, so we didn't have to worry about your attendance. You've got 100% attendance.
Yes. Yes, you can count on me for being, that's the one thing I think I.
It's like Melanie, she's got 100, but she could be in San Diego and she just shows up. All of a sudden, we know she's got 100%.
All of central office actually has outstanding attendance. Yeah, that's good to know. All right, so safety. A few things we've talked a little bit in the past. I try to be as detailed as I can, but there are some things that I won't share publicly that schools are working on, things like that. So I'm going to try to provide a general overview on some of the things that we've been working on. So you can tell I'm a little excited. Safety is my HR stuff I'm working on diligently, but safety is a little break from some of that. And so it's an opportunity for me to network with other people. And one of the things I started doing, Jim Riley went to Wachusett. He had a cabinet member reach out to me early on and say, hey, why don't you talk to Steve about some of the safety things that were going on in Leominster? So you guys can kind of share notes. So in those conversations, I said, what would be really nice is to have this happen at a central mass kind of opportunity. And there was nothing out there. So John and I started. And so we have a group. There are members from Leominster, obviously, Wachusett Regional, Fitchburg, Lunenburg, Monty Tech, Gardner, Ash West Regional. And so we've started meeting and sharing notes and just saying, hey, let's brainstorm some of the things we're working on, solutions for this. Those kind of things. So that's an excellent opportunity, I think, for us to kind of network and share ideas because I've been here a long time and I kind of have a good sense on what we are doing, but not as much a good idea on what's happening in some other districts. And so that's an opportunity that I'm taking advantage of. And I think it's going to be beneficial for us, but it's also, it just, I wanted to share about that. One of the things that goes along with that is our relationships with our city departments. And so we consistently strengthening our relationships with our fire and our police. And those are the guide to keeping our environment safe. And safety, we talked a lot about emotional safety. The physical safety thing with the police and fire, an example of that. Summer, there were site visits at each of the school buildings. So fire, that I attended, fire chief, police lieutenant, there were high level members of those departments and then new members of those departments that were touring the facilities, walking through, so that in the event of an emergency, of familiarity with procedures, right? So in those walkabouts, we're talking about procedures. And so, okay, what do you do here? How are the communications? Another department that we're working closely with is Office of Emergency Management. Arthur, great resource. He's got a background that's varied. And so I haven't come into contact a lot with some of the things that he's talking about. Okay, so let's get some procedures in place so that we have increased our communications very much so over the last 4 years, interdepartment communications. Talkies with some for example. So okay, let's test those, right? So I'm working with Arthur on a schedule. Can we test those in a time when students aren't in front of us, and we have the secretaries and the office staff to test those. Those are just two examples of intercommunication with other departments. Not really, those are critical. They're really strong. I went to OEM. It was I'm going to read from CISA, and it's a Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And so, Homeland Security of that organization, and it's not just concerned on the cybersecurity part, which I was heavily involved in the last few years, but the infrastructure, right, the physical buildings. And so that really piqued my interest. So I was there again with fire department, police department. There were surrounding communities, but some that were far out, an hour away in Connecticut, for example. And so during that time, we met a gentleman named John Warren. John works for Homeland Security. He runs CISA, and he mentioned something about doing some vulnerability. So that caught my attention. During the break, I talked to him. I said, you know, how can I have you talk to me more about that? He gave his card, called him. We're now doing vulnerability assessments in our district that we're not paying for. It's covered by Homeland Security, and it's an ex college that he's. So we did one here at the high school campus a week and a half ago, and so from that I'll have a report of high school campus with some recommendations. And so he spent all day with us here, with myself, Bill Sullivan from facilities, our SRO, and straight out the high school that had worked on both sides, the high school and the CTE side. So that was a small team. The next step is he's going to train a team of us at the next largest school, so Skyview. He's going to train a team of us to then conduct the vulnerability assessments, which we can then over the next, I'm thinking maybe year, over facilities in our school district. So those are things that I'm excited about, but also that's going to give us information to then take the next step, right, to direct funding, to make recommendations on our facility capital projects, to make recommendations on which grants we go through. So grant came out recently. There was a planning grant that was focused on vulnerability assessments. So I said, okay, we're ahead of that. We don't need to apply for that one, but we want to see the next one coming down the pipe, which might be, for lack of a better word, for stuff, right? For safety things, for tangible items. So that next part, we have in district, we have our emergency procedures. And this should look familiar to from a lot of people that may have been around a long time, but you may not realize it because this is a school-based. And I see now you had that you're attached on the wall. We need to revamp those. So most of the information here is good. John Warren on the voluntary assessment took a look at this and he says, yeah, you've got a good framework here. Let's build on that. And there's these recommendations on that. So and this has been in place for probably 20 years. So we need to clean up some language. And I'd say maybe in those 20 years, we 3 times we've changed some of the things. And so that is the next step for the district safety. And so last year, I asked Paula, I said, Paula, let's, sorry. In my vision, let's see a fraud. Yep, sorry. So district-wide safety team, right? So I meet with the district-wide safety team. I said, Paula, I kind of think I'm volunteering for, extra work, but I think it's important. Let's pick up the frequency of our meetings. And so we meet with the district-wide safety team. And then from there, each building has a school-based safety team. And so those are the things that we're talking about when we talk about emergency procedures. From the district level, we're going to talk about those. And then the school-based teams will identify the language for each commonality at the district level, but then tailored to the school so that it fits your safety plan in a building. Your event. This one actually has a blank insert, first class that's in here, fire drill routes. And so those are some examples there. Almost done. I know you guys are busy. Looking ahead. So really almost done. There'll be from federal and state safety monies that will be available. Each of the times I participated either in a webinar or an in-person meeting, they're talking about that. They haven't said when, but it's soon. And just I think we'll be in a good position when they are released to be able to articulate our needs and apply for the funds in a timely and organized manner. So that's it. If you have some questions, I'll be more than happy to either answer them directly or back to questions.
So the things that have service already, we're not sitting on, we're going for it. Yeah.
That's even, can you say something?
Yeah, there's procedures, the flip chart.
What area? Go ahead.
So an example of that would be, we had lockdowns. And so in the past, at Northwest, this is a Northwest one because I was there. At the time we were calling it code I. Right? Code I need to know what's going on so that I can shelter in place or I can lock down. It works not at federally at safety level. No, the visitors to the building don't know what code I is. The students may not know what code I is. Be honest on the intercom. We're in a lockdown situation. It's a hard lockdown. So in your classroom, door locked, blinds closed, scattered in the room, not visible areas. Or we're in a soft lockdown. Everyone in from recess, normal procedures in the building, just no outside activity. An example might be the gas leak in the area or somebody robbery. They haven't caught the suspect yet. They might be in the area. So those are just some examples of some things that need to be cleaned up. They're not impacting safety. Like the teachers know. But, I think the language being clearer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The world has changed.
His vulnerability is so.
All right, we'll now move on to goals and objectives. So the purpose tonight, and it's getting late, but the purpose tonight was to kind of put some things out there. What do you think, what do you think the committee's goals ought to be? And then we can talk about it. We don't have to do it all in one night. We can talk about it, a few of the things. We can prioritize them, talk about them, but make it a consistent thing where we're constantly evaluating our goals, setting new goals. So at the same time, the superintendent is setting her goals, so that way we're not mismatched. Well, those are their goals. It should be a system-wide goal so that, everyone's talking the same language, right? It's an organization. So anyway, I clearly think we can put one of the main objectives here is clearly trying to figure this out here. But how does all unravels, what other people are doing about it? And is there, in my angle as well, if they're not going to come to school and there's going to be an issue there, we're not going to drag them to court probably. I mean, because what's it being? What do we do? How do we provide the education and statistics? Provide, yes. So this is all, it's everything. So that I think is probably one area.
The overarching one is to educate children to their optimal level, which, filters down into,
Whatever it is.
attendance is part of getting that done.
Remember, we started this process,
Assessment is another way to.
remember a while ago, we brought in a system where if a student could be in class, they'd still be able to participate. And that was pretty cool. And if the kid was sick and was going to be out there getting chemo, and couldn't come in, they'd still be able to participate. Without knowing each individual student's family's issue, I think, like Melissa said, it could be one of the million. So I think it's going to be very methodical. So we're not going to resolve that tonight, but at least I guess I can assume that's certainly an issue. Others?
Well, students' well-being, mental health. And that can kind of go back to the attendance, how to improve that, help them with that, and then feel comfortable with school, this, that. That's the important part. Yeah, but it's still an important thing, important part for the student. I agree.
The reprogram that people have.
Okay.
Compared to the 10%. Compared to. But that's what.
So, but tonight we can, as I was saying when you were walking in, we can create and this is the goal, and then work on in other meetings. I mean, we'll go to midnight if we have to, but it won't be good thinking, right? It won't be quick critical thinking. All right, but we can start to think about, well, how do we break that down? How do we measure that? And then see how we're doing. Right? I mean, that's, I don't want to leave it to teachers in these schools to say, well, you got to get kids back in the classroom. Well, it should be all same thing with the, the issue of mental health. It isn't going away. It clearly isn't going away. So, how do we provide support or at least acknowledge it's an issue? Now we're getting, we can get into labor on, well, how do we measure it? It's
Social climate in the schools.
It's just helping family figure out what's going on. Personally, or even family wise, what can we do?
other things. Mr. Ron has his hand up.
I believe what we need to do is gosh, for Sal's point. And I'm excited. Show what they didn't do, what he has, or what they used to do. Work off that. We don't want to try and reinvent it. They've already invented the wheel. It goes quickly. But that's our point. we want to be able to build on what he has already done.
That Ron, just for a moment, in his presentation, brought up the concept of having a district-wide safety team and then an individual school safety. Why to make sure there's consistency on the district and then each school can work on their strengths. I see that working the same exactly. That's a great framework.
That's all I'm asking. So. So there, Paula and or the principals, they can show us what has been done, and what they're projecting, what they can do. And we go from there, because yes, absenteeism, chronic absenteeism, it's a real pain, but the part that we're not addressing, and you can look it up in the literature, in the ages from 10 to 24, that's the magic area. If the kids, male or female, don't feel like they can contribute something from their own selves, the outside, they're gonna check out.
Well, there's an example, Ron, not to get too drilled down too deep, but I think a good example is why the PTOs are so important. And the activities that happen, because they bring the parents in, and the parent might be, if they have a culture, different beliefs, whatever it might be, there's different backgrounds. They may not feel comfortable, but if you have an event, the kids come, the parents come, the grandparents come. It's a really good way. Churches do it all the time. I mean, they have a really good way of kind of the youth group, and then youth group sections off, and and I think Sprays Straight is a good example of, they all show up, they have an event, everybody shows up. How do you extract from that an individual relationship with each of those parents, right? To make them feel comfortable about asking questions when, I mean, let's face it, I grew up in this town, so from my kids, from kindergarten, pre-K on, I walked in, I knew half the people there. But that's not always the situation for everybody. They go in and they're just, they don't ask the wrong question, maybe they don't speak the right language. But maybe that's a good example of the PTOs, when they have an event, get all these people that show up to help.
It's intentionally impact.
Yes. So I'm just saying,
Mouth language, face language, you are conveying that you don't really give a rip horizontally or vertically. You block it.
I think we do that. I think, as I stated time and time again, our teachers, our staff will do anything. In fact, putting clothes on from Karen's closets to help you with this, whatever you need, they'll do to make you, take advantage of the opportunity to make you successful and to help solve a potential problem. You see what happens when there's a student in crisis. Everybody kicks in, right? But police department, everybody just, hey, whatever it is, we got to do it. Community response to a bigger problem. So you're right. And it's just changes how we do it, right? It didn't have to worry about school security in the past. We do. Mental health wasn't a huge issue. We didn't have to worry about fentanyl, right? Now, I mean, we've got a generation of people not going to be around if we don't come to terms.
We already have a generation.
We do. But I'm just saying, so let's just use that same concept, the same way of more strategic community-based groups to look at common problems within the community. And that could change, right?
Reality is, the outreach team might understand client list.
We do.
Yeah, there's a lot of commonality there.
We started our meetings.
Each population, but
Our meetings where we had school, probation department, everybody, we're limited as to what specifically about what we can talk about, individual about the student, where we can talk about generalization and everything, because the kid that showed up the mall in the past, that would be a problem down there. He usually was a problem in the classroom too. And it was probably home. He was the problem with the convenience store, just the and so we put, things together, and I could be pretty successful.
May I just make a suggestion for you? Go back to see what the big. But let's figure out what the big buckets are around those that are either this one. Illness, that's one focus. If it's you're traveling back to your home country for 6 weeks, that's another focus. Or if it's about displacement and things like that. And at the different levels, because our little guys in elementary. but just minimal,
All right, other issues.
right?
So, my feedback on some of these goals is that we need to really start at the highest level. And for me, you know, all the attendance goals and things like that are because we understand there's a correlation between showing up and academic achievement. Right, so my feeling is that we should set an academic goal for the district, and then then we want to empower our schools to make decisions that are specific to their students, or specific. They may, Fallbrook might be really strong in one area, and that might not be their focus. Francis Drake might be strong in a different area, and that might not be their focus. So giving them the freedom to interpret their own data, their own students' needs, and say, okay, my students are really struggling in math, or my third graders are doing this or that, and really allowing them to come up with a plan. But the overarching theme is that we want the entire district to hit this academic goal. And maybe that's an MCAS score. I'm not, if there's another standard and another scoring system that we want to use, but let's keep it high level. And then let's empower our schools to kind of come up with their own plans that are their own students.
I think that's great, and that the task force would be a good way for that communication to take place. Like people from different schools who have some similar thing in common, where they can discuss these issues so that everyone can work. And this is a weak point in here, but this is a weak point in our school. That's a strong point in yours. So what are you doing? And then, yeah. So I don't know if that's one of the things we want to do, but I like task force a lot.
Allow other, people to look at it differently, right? The same problem a little bit differently. It's like, I didn't think of that. I'm going to use that in my school. And somebody might think, I'm going to try this. And then they're on a call or a meeting and somebody's already tried that. And they're like, that completely flopped. Won't do that one. But so like the EL achievement gap, which I think is great and I think is so important, it's probably every school has a pretty wide gap, but maybe it's higher priority for one school and less priority for another school. I don't know.
I mean, we've had this go before, but like sort of Dean said, by third grade,
Yes,
everybody
let's
should
bring that up.
read and to.
It took
Right.
20
I mean,
years
this
for us
is-
to finally get through, but you got to keep repeating that
Right,
eventually.
That's going to be a benchmark. We
Right.
need to have every high school student graduate. And so obviously we know it won't be 100%, but maybe the goal for that is, 98% or whatever it is. But, we have to sometimes tailor some of the goals to the different age groups, but everybody needs to be, we have to get back, we're educators, and there's lots of reasons why children perform or don't perform or go to school or don't go to school. But ultimately, we need to have everybody at the same benchmark. So everybody needs to be able to read and write by the third grade. Everybody needs to be able to, pass MCAS by the whatever,
I mean, if you could say, everybody, our overall arching goal for the whole community is that we're gonna, 5%, we're gonna have an improvement by the end of the year on our attendance. So everybody knows, but I don't know, Steve might do it differently, Green does it differently. It's like, you go out and do it, everybody's gonna improve it.
Population.
So, you said reasons. So each one of my buildings, each principal has goals and things that are pertinent to their buildings, because each building is so unique. My goal for this committee is, how do you reinforce it? The attendance is a community issue. So how are the 10 bodies sitting around this table right now going to support that in the Leominster Public Schools? I put it out there as a goal. Every one of my principals, it's one of their goals. They're fighting it.
Send your message.
It's on my
Okay,
message. You get yelled at about it.
But to say improve,
So is it about the school committee saying, hey, we're gonna save resources? It's about, we're gonna have community forums for parents. What this body can do to support our schools and getting our community to say, yeah, it is the most important thing in education, is to show up.
I think that's a good start. I think that a lot of parents can join into that. People will really get the word, especially if we involve students who then will also.
So as a group, as a body, you want to start a task force with community partnerships and parents, that's what we need.
right, but I think getting it back to what Eileen said is, if we say, well, listen, in every school, we want to improve attendance by 5%. That's, everybody can get that part. Everybody's moving in that direction. But now some may get 7%, but some people may get 4.5% of an increase, but we're not gonna get to 0. That I know.
Right.
And so a 5% might be, we might look at that and say, geez, we could get, Laurie, I don't know, we could get another 5% back into the classrooms somehow. Is that an achievable goal that we might be able to obtain by the end of the year? If that's the case, then at least it's gonna be 6,000 students. Now add 1,000 staff, and I don't know how many parents and step parents and step parents and then grandparents. And that. So you got 10,000 people, there's 43,000 people in the city. You gotta have one thing you can focus on, which is, hey, we gotta get here. Where you going? Here. How long is it gonna take you to get there? Well, it's gonna take an hour to get there. How fast do you have to go? Well, everybody's gonna arrive there, hopefully, but in a different way, right? They're gonna get there maybe using different tools. So, but if you keep it like, let's just improve, then everybody's just like, yeah, we're working really hard. And I think as human beings, we need to have that goal. You know, I got a wedding to go to, and I'm gonna lose 20 pounds by May 12th because I bought a suit and I gotta make sure I fit into it, right? That's a goal. I need to lose 15 pounds.
So let me just get this, what everybody said. So far, you have 4 goals,
Yes,
right? One is to improve attendance. If we put the 4 goals here,
yes,
then you can put your things underneath it.
yes,
Improve attendance, students' well-being / mental health. Are we measuring? District-wide safety team.
Right.
And a high-level academic goal.
Right.
So if you put those as headings, then all of these things that you're talking about, you can put.
next meeting, we're gonna put specific, we're gonna think about it, we're gonna put this, even if it's 2%.
Right.
But we'll,
So like the high level academic goal underneath, you put all kids are reading by grade 3.
Right.
If that's one of the things underneath that, right?
And graduations.
And graduation rates.
We need to have, what you talk about, but we don't even have absentee goal if your goal is at student achievement, because we know that to relate together. So like Fallbrook, their attendance is pretty good, right? They may not focus on that as much. They may maintain it, but you know, another school may have a more detailed plan about that.
but on attendance, I think we gotta go back to what the superintendent said. I need to know what the buckets are. I need to know what these people are saying. When you stop them and say, why aren't you coming to school? What does the parents say? I mean, if they say, the kid doesn't get up, he doesn't sleep all night, his kid's got anxiety, that's fine.
I think
We've got a good system to help that student and the family. That's what's in place in the city. Take advantage of it.
I agree.
Yes, exactly.
I agree with that. You know, for every meeting, we've heard attendance is the problem.
No, what I'm saying is,
Okay, what the buckets are, but we gotta be.
but I need to know why it is that Johnny's not, I know we're talking the aggregate. I need to know why specifically Johnny's not coming to school.
But they're not gonna wait.
No, but she's saying she's gonna go back and, so
Yeah.
in preparation of this,
But
she's gonna go back and look at the buckets more specifically to find out. But so
But we're not gonna wait too long to get the results from those buckets.
we don't have to wait.
I need to.
We're talking teachers that are gonna have a conversation with students. Pretty quick.
And they probably know half of it anyways already.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, listen,
particularly everybody who's sick.
I
they
think-
gotta-
Talk for a second about what it is that you do in your private world and the demo. No, seriously.
We're on the spot.
No, because I think it's, yes, it is, but
That's another story.
But it's earth shattering to listen to the data on the mountain that every day you and your team face. Just talk about the data just in this area.
Well, I don't have numbers off.
I
the top
would
of
have,
my head.
so as you
But,
gave
I
me the
mean,
once and I was just shocked.
Yeah.
Just
I
shocked.
mean, we have, probably over 200 children in my unit needing forever homes to their first families, because it's just doing something on one child, and he had 21 placements and he's 8. So you're gonna ask why he's not going to school.
Really, that's what I'm saying. It's just a complex.
You know, achieving where we would like him to achieve, the amount of trauma that some of these children have experienced is unconscionable and unimaginable or imaginable. But these kids are extremely resilient. They're smart, they're articulate, they need a lot of children within our community. The best place for these kids to be is if they're from Leominster, that they stay in Leominster, they stay in their school system, they stay with their colleagues, their friends, their neighborhood that they know. And there's, since COVID, there's been obviously lots of difficulties in finding therapeutic providers. There's long wait lists. But, you know, we have children who want to learn, who want to belong, who want to stay, and both emotionally and physically. And as a community, we need to step up and help the most vulnerable. And, you know, those are the people who don't vote. Those are the people who don't have voices.
And you show up, and they show up to every community event trying to, you know, get foster parents, mentors, a few hours in an afternoon, anything. I mean,
short-term, long-term, whatever.
they're everywhere. And Ron, when he went to school, there was probably 2 kids in the whole entire school system who were under those, living under those conditions. And maybe.
And
It's
it's
there
just
in the
reminded
monster.
that
And
we
it-
can't be placed in their community, and because there's no busing, social workers are driving kids out to give them to
Stability.
every single day. And it's an unimaginable task, because this is our working hours, to be driving at 6 in the morning to take them, you know, 4 communities over so that they can go to school and then.
But I think
Kind of
that
fractured system that we all need to, you know, take a look at it.
That team does an incredible job. That's torture to see it every day. And it might not seem like a big deal because you can't find homes, but every day I mean, it's amazing the work that they do. And but I'm just trying to illustrate a small sample in a mid-sized community of what we have to deal with every day. And it's complex. It's not that easy.
that's the prime evidence for why those buckets are important.
Exactly.
The thing that works for that kid is not the same thing that's gonna work for the kid that's just not getting up. and
And
going.
that's why it's gonna have to be more methodical about drilling down, you know, coming up with
And if you're worried about
plan for
where you
every
have food to eat or where you're going to
Right.
spend the night, it's really hard to, you know, pay attention to your math lesson and take your spelling
That's
test.
why that logistically, in terms of what Josh and Greg were saying about, you know, doing something now, like specific things, is like, I think we should focus, one of our goals should be like communication, just in general.
best practices, but the state could set up easily. Say, these have worked in other areas.
Or just things as simple as sending out forms, like if you ever wanted me to send out forms to the student body, I have so many different clubs with so many different Google Classrooms. I have a big outreach within just LHS. So, you know, there's a lot of ways we could start now in terms of communication.
Anyway, so we've got 4 good goals. I had just 2 simple, small ones, which was to get that help home building program going. You know, might help a family who will never get a single family house everywhere. The CTEI would love to build a home, but we got to get moving on that to make it, you know.
And Dan, contact you for it.
Depends on where the property would be, but I don't know this, the students could set that up. I mean, that's a big project. They could do a 1,500 square foot house. It's gotta be, you know, the affordable part of it all, but let's just find out if there's somebody out there that might be interested in.
And we have had that very successful for many
It's
years.
awesome. It's so
Several
good.
ways. We're getting back.
It's
been wonderful. for
As the governor walked the last, you know, steps of the stairs, I bumped into Governor Weld. And you can believe it or not, totally unsolicited, The first thing he said to me and the rest of the group that were educators from all over the country, you know what the first thing he said to me is, look, this is so unbelievable that I don't expect anybody to believe it, but I heard it myself. He said to me, Leominster school system, where he's the mayor of, has a comprehensive high school. It is one of the few in the entire nation. And it's been that way where other schools are going that way. It's one of the first school systems that's ever done this, where you can go to high school and you can go to technical school. I didn't. You don't have to believe me. It's astonishing what he said, not what I said. He brought it up. I didn't even have to remind him. It's the first thing that stuck out in his mind. that he told others, and they're like, yeah, it makes sense. How do you do that? He has to do today to build a facility that's got both without spending half of $1 billion. All right, so that's helpful. We're pretty much agreement on those issues there. And now
Are
we
we not going to include them? Because there were more in the packet that we were getting.
can, some of the super.
Those were the superintendent's.
More specific about,
All right.
you know,
Might be. one.
curriculums and, you know, that sort of thing, but, you know. But I think
We
that's
have to keep it simple.
Yes.
Four things that Chris was saying. But we have to be able to keep it simple, each one of.
And attainable. And attainable.
There's four things,
Measurable.
measurable,
Right.
measurable, and by date. What do you want to have by such a date? That's the only way we can figure it out.
No, we agree. We all agree. Second, all in favor, signify by using manner. Those opposed, I assume everybody had a chance to read them.
Yes.
Now we're gonna move on to policy subcommittees. Do we have any policy?
We did meet
Some-
today, and we were looking at, facilities and fees and things like that, and we need more information. And come to a final recommendation.
Okay, anybody else under the subcommittees? Melanie, do you have purchase orders or anything? I mean,
We have words.
Yes, still alive.
No, we're still here.
Still awake, still alive. You ready to talk money? The salary.
You too, I want to.
Just start with their promo.
Right,
This is purposeful.
all right. As long as I get dinner before 10 p.m.
We're approaching it quickly.
Yes. So one of the things that was requested from the committee was an update on the ESSER grants. So included in your packet is the same format that you've seen in the past, where we've updated the amount that's expended from each ESSER grant, what we have available, and a breakdown of what we spend it on. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know.
Jean is loosening up it all for us.
Depends what it is,
I was
right?
gonna say,
Be my question was.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know after I talk to Dan tomorrow for his projects.
Oh, that's-
Yeah, he's. Yes. And yes, that's, Marina's whispering in my ear. We are finally, after 1 year, the vans are being built.
You're lucky. You're lucky because,
They're being built.
you know,
The automotive.
I don't know what that means for a time frame, but they're being built.
honestly, that's that best.
It's amazing. So there are definitely projects that have been finished. There are projects on that list down there that are they're being built. They're in the middle of it, and or they're just getting ready to go out to bid. And the purchasing office with Meredith, whom I just met, she's fantastic. I am already a big fan of hers. She is assisting in getting all of our bids ready, so it's great to see.
Good.
So that's your update on that. Unless you have any other questions, we'll move on.
You were gonna do the update on the just where we're on the federal funds, where we're at, what the kind of status is. We're gonna do that.
Do as far as,
Yes, sir.
well, the report here shows you, it's a little convoluted.
Yep.
Because unless a project has been approved by DESI and that we have all of the bid information and all the background information, it's not necessarily reflected in the expenditures, right? So until we have something that goes out to bid and we get a winner on that bid, we can't put it in. And so the money that's left over here, you may see some of it, that ESSER 3 there, I didn't put available because basically most of that is available. Most of the 11 million is still available. We have not yet gotten to a point where we started expending most of ESSER 3.
That's earmarked just specifically for.
You can see that the listing here, the breakdown is where it's earmarked.
Yeah.
Yep,
$13 million that hasn't been expended yet.
roughly. There are a lot of that funding. There are projects that are already earmarked. We're getting together the bids and the specs.
Yeah,
And
no, that, we want an opinion now, just a rough idea. Eventually, people ask me, and I'm like, well, let's get Melanie's take on it, because I know there are things in the purchase order line.
in the works,
So
yeah. I mean,
that's-
he probably has $6 million in his office that needs to go out to bid.
City.
Well,
The money.
you know what I mean. I know it's getting late, Greg, but
Of the 13 million, how much of that is like, being committed to DESI and approved?
It all has.
right, we
So-
can't move forward.
Right, the plans have all been preliminarily approved, like the portables that, and if I might, then we've got millions of dollars there, and it's been preliminarily approved, it's now going out to bid, it'll get final approval, so we haven't, we have them approved as plans, but we have not actually expended money to a vendor yet.
So how much, maybe I'll ask you this way, Greg, how much is not earmarked?
None of it,
Consider,
none of it,
it's all spent.
correct.
Yes.
Or will be spent, like,
Yep.
for example,
Yes.
over here, the mental health support,
Mm-hmm.
that 60,000, that's, I'm looking at the ESER 3.
Yep.
I'm looking at ESER 2. Is that the upper limit or is that the lower limit?
That is the limit.
The limit
is the
on
limit.
that line, correct.
And when you've gone past 2024, what happened?
Reevaluate and see where we need to absorb some of that cost into the general fund.
That's why that says.
Correct.
Because my next question is gonna
I'm
be,
sorry, I'm the devil here.
You're not the devil.
When you say that,
No, that's not a dumb.
No, no,
Well, no, but it's just,
Hold on, let her answer it, because
no,
what she's
it's
trying. to-
it's not a dumb question.
but when you said the general fund, how much we looking?
Well, if you're looking at the ESSER funding.
Yeah.
We've got to decide as a district. Are we able to absorb, if you're looking, for instance, in ESSER 3?
Yeah.
Under teachers, there's $1.2 million for 2-year contracts.
Yeah.
If we still need those guidance counselors, those interventionists, those teachers, are we able to absorb that 1.2 million into our general fund for fiscal 25? But there's a point where we have to reevaluate what is sustainable, right?
So are we, is there another way of saying, is it sustainable or not sustainable?
We have to figure
No.
out.
No, you're not. I think there's an assessment that gets done every year on our needs, especially when it comes to our teacher level or our interventionists and guidance counselors, that we say, does this school need another interventionist? Does it require that? And if we need that, then we put in our budget.
And it's population driven.
Correct. Student driven.
Well, all that millionaire tax that they should be collecting, all the ones that are moving to New Hampshire, all that money's gonna hopefully come back to us. That's what they said.
money in the bank, it's already spent.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Very welcome. So I do, this time of year, I know I picked a great meeting. This time of year, we do assess and do some budget transfers to clean up some of that movement. And so you'll see there are 2 sections that need a vote. Transfers can be done within the district without a vote. I'm not sure if Natalie's aware of this, and so just a little bit informative for her. Within DESI 1000 codes, so within the 2000 code to 2000 code, we can do a certain amount without having to get a vote, but we do have to give it as an informational.
Yeah. Has been actually.
I'm sure he explained that to you. So
I've seen these things before.
that's been, I love it. Perfect. So just for this evening, the 2 top sections, the general fund salary transfers that need a vote would be the $12,000 between DESI code 2130 and DESI 4400. And those are just contractual things that were finalized after the budget, and we just need to cover it. And then the second section, general fund expense transfers, those 3 transfers are the only 3 that need a vote.
So I make a motion to approve both of those, all of those transfers.
Seconded.
All in favor? Those opposed? Okay, anything else?
Warrants?
Yes, who's the lucky duck?
I still have to do this. And I got a new position for that.
Well, that's
Yeah, we got the card.
That's how you got it. That's warrant number 18.
It's a chocolate, it's a little chocolate card.
That was the assumption. You all voted.
One thing before you do the warrants, maybe, this is not necessarily my aspect, but there are 3 donations to be accepted.
Yes, thank you.
I make a motion to approve the donations. So
I can-
wonderful, and thank
yeah.
you very much.
Okay,
Everybody?
and then with the warrants,
Correct.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the following warrants. We've got warrant 18, which totals $2,520,053.68. Warrant 19, which totals $521,722.63. Warrant 20, which totals $2,720,242.80. Warrant 21, that totals $242,746.29. Warrant 22, which totals $2,340,744.76. Warrant 23, which totals $484,654.18. Warrant 24, which totals $2,736,414.65. Warrant 25, which totals $596,069. Warrant 26, which totals $2,253,244.97. And warrant 27, which totals $275,297.90. We've got,
Keep going.
give me a break. From grants and revolving, warrant 18, which totals $306,630.18. Warrant 19, which totals $73,899.43.
20.
Warrant 20, which totals $751,737.82. Warrant 21, which totals $441,336.45. Warrant 22, which totals $264,746.05. Warrant 23, which totals $58,527.74. Warrant 24, which totals $896,322.04. Warrant 25, which totals $120,069.53. Warrant 26, which totals $216,811.37. And warrant 27, which totals $267,267.01.
Well done.
that under 2 minutes. it's gonna be 50 million. Go a little slower, so it- like, it feels like I'm shopping at home. Spent 200 bucks to come up with a half a bag.
Like I went into real, it should have been an auction here.
Okay, everybody's heard the recommendation to approve. Is there a second? Second, all in favor? Those opposed? Nice job. All right, we are now down to, new world business, whatever is new world business.
I just have one thing. At our last meeting, we had said we would stay on the same subcommittees and we don't have a new member. So I don't know.
Is there any subcommittee want to be on? We're all on the, finance. We're all on finance.
So, well, there's policy,
There's
there's
policy.
grievance, there's negotiations, there's athletic advisory, there's wellness. I don't know whether I have any CTEI.
The list of them is on your second page on your packet on the right side.
You don't have to tell us that,
And we'll need
whatever you just.
Emily's contact information at some point. That's
Yes, you just got an email today.
Fix my,
like I don't have.
I don't live in 01343.
You don't.
The ring said-
That is some part of, Leominster.
All billionaires.
It's like Hyde Park, it's the second.
I want to say a few weeks ago, I was able to join Kathy Pro, Kate Phillips, and Nick Smith, and we attended the addressing a artist, as part of the Attorney General's, push to acknowledge some of the issues that are happening within our sports. and proactively. And there's gonna be ongoing training starting in January.
That is like the whole place. The whole place is filled with people. Yeah, we want kids out, the rec department, the new conservation agent, library, I mean, all of them, they've been doing like hikes with kids in the show, you know? Things you would believe you post, and, you know, you think like 2 or 3 kids show up, every one of them is so just trying to get them away from here and more outdoors, what are you interested in, what, you know, and it seems to be working, they're doing a really good job. They're now planning out the whole February vacation week to see, you know, what things they can get going. We need some snow because those kids at Francis Drake, I mean, seriously, there's this much snow and they're out there. Sliding down that hill.
Because nothing in the forecast either.
Huh?
Yes.
What?
Steve,
Well,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
into the skate park.
Perfect. I was going for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking on. Thank you, everybody.
Folks.